not only said that 1 day a week might not be effective, neither is like a 2-month program necessarily, because there's no finish line. A lot of people have a particular goal that they want to reach and think that that's the end of the deal. And so just say, look, this is, once you've lost 10 pounds, then what? You have to continue to do something to maintain these, to retain your progress. You go right back to where you were.
You got to keep them consistent past the beginner game.
This is how we're going to do that. You have your goal, I have the path to get there. And so he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Show him the means to get there. And that was critical. But let your client tell you what they want. You got to start asking the questions you mentioned earlier in terms of diet and exercise. I had said, you want them to lift weights. I've always said the best diet's the one you'll follow, and the best exercise is the one you'll do. And so that's where you start.
Yeah.
What will this person do consistently? And then can you start to incorporate things, or even give them things that they weren't even aware of that they might enjoy, both in terms of foods, methods of dieting, whether it be intermittent fasting or keto. Maybe they'd enjoy that. Maybe they'd feel better there. You don't know.
Stan the Rhino Efferding and Matt Whittemer. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us here today. What's going on? How you doing?
Doing great. That was a great workout we had this morning.
It was fun.
I figured you out already. You're the instigator.
I poked the bear.
Yes, indeed.
Or the rhino.
We got on a hack squat machine. I'm like, who's done the most? And he's like, who'd you say did 8
I
plates?
said, I was like, Ted's done like 8 something plates.
Yeah, he's like, Ted's done 8 plates. And so I'm thinking in my head, this is computing. I'm like, got up to 6 and it was heavy as hell. I couldn't do any more. And then after the whole thing was over, you break out, it was to a box with a reverse band.
Yeah, I think it was to a box. I think that's what happened.
I was feeling so bad about myself. Damn. Thanks, though. I appreciate the invite. It's great to be on the show.
Yeah.
Great to finally come out here and see after all these years. This is about the first time we've been together.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I was talking to Mark last night and about some other stuff, and I said, something's going to be coming out. He's like, you never met him? No, but we know a lot of the same people. I'm a hermit. I don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
That's all right. It's an amazing gym. It was a great workout today. There's so much more we could have done, wished we had done. But I got to say, most of your audience probably knows who I am. But we got a new face over here today, Matt Whittemer, and he's not very popular in the social media circles, but behind the scenes, probably one of the most accomplished and smartest guys I know in the industry. He was a former strength and conditioning coach at Pittsburgh, and then at the Cleveland Browns was strength and conditioning coach for their football team under Buddy Morris, the legendary, if those in the NFL know, he's not insta-popular, but the great Buddy Morris is a legend in the industry.
He will never.
Insta-popular.
That shouldn't make me laugh as much as it does.
Isn't it funny that people don't even know who that guy is?
But it's just the fact of him even thinking about being insta-popular.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
He doesn't use a computer.
No.
Every once in a while, they'll like one of my pictures. I'm like, how'd you learn that? His
Accident.
His wife did that.
He would write his workouts for the athletes on paper.
Yeah.
So they come in and like, here's yours. I mean, it was
probably still does.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So Matt, he cut his teeth there, of course, and he's been a gym owner in Cincinnati for 20 years now. He's owned up to a dozen gyms at one time, and still a gym owner down there. Worked with a lot of Cincinnati Bengals, and kind of does mostly Gen Pop now, dad bods and soccer moms, because we know training athletes is a pain in the ass. But, I've trained with a lot of great coaches over the years. Obviously, trained with Flex Wheeler to become a pro bodybuilder, and Mark Bell for my powerlifting records. But as of late, in the last many years, 3-4 plus years now, Matt's my go-to guy for powerlifting, probably the most knowledgeable guy that I've ever personally worked with. Sorry, Mark. But, he's a bachelor's strength conditioning, exercise science. And I just want to make sure your audience knows that this is the guy I listen to. This is the first guy I called when I got the opportunity to work with John Jones. And we flew him out. We brought out an overspeed treadmill, which is something he specializes in, is speed strength in particular. And he spent over, 15 years working with and competing for Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons.
I used to drive up. I come up every Monday, Friday.
Yeah.
For years.
And so I just want to make sure the audience knew that I'll probably be referring to Matt on a lot of these powerlifting topics. My success speaks for itself, but I kind of maybe accidentally happened upon that. I can't say I was the most brilliant guy. Most of the stuff I talk about now is in reflection in retrospect, based on what the science tells us today, I'm like, oh, that's kind of what I did. And
odd, huh?
Yeah, odd. It wasn't, it wasn't some genius guru, thing that got me to where I got. It's just that kind of happened to be what worked, and I was around long enough to fall onto the things, or to let go of the mistakes that I made over the years. But
probably a better way to
just
put
an aside, and maybe we'll jump into it today, but Matt's also an extremely successful gym owner. I've been in probably 12 countries in all 50 states and visited hundreds of gyms and talked to thousands of personal trainers over the years. Not to brag about Matt, but he runs an extremely successful business that generates over $1 million a year in personal training revenue, not memberships or supplements, but this is actual coaches training actual clients. And so we wrote a book together on how to be successful in the fitness industry, which we might talk about in more detail today, but both in terms of his practical experience as a competitive powerlifter to his coaching experience and his financial success in this industry. He's going to be a great resource. Hopefully we'll touch on some of those topics today.
Absolutely. And I think we did something a little bit differently today with the videos that we shot, because a lot of the times we'll have guests come out, we have very structured topics that we're going to kind of go over. But what we did with you guys is we kind of wanted to include the audience in what a training session looks like, right? Yeah. In terms of that decision making, in terms of how you guys get from like figuring out what you want to do, feeling how you're feeling for the day, just going through that process. And it's for people that have been training for a long time, that's kind of just what training is. But for a lot of the audience, they might not realize that a training session, you can have a plan, but you need to have those like gatekeepers. You need to have those decision makers that you have, or whether it's in a warm up or an exercise selection or whatever. And we kind of showed that today, and that was kind of cool to see from you guys. Like, even the decision making, like, all right, we're going to do legs. All right, now, and then we just turned the camera on and went.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like a really cool thing to see, and it was a different angle on normal training content that you would probably see. So that's going to be exciting to see. But you hit legs today.
Yes,
weird.
We hit legs as often as possible. I don't even like training upper body anymore. It's like every time Matt comes out or I join him up, it's leg day. It doesn't matter. What was leg day yesterday? Well, it's leg day today. Right. We don't care. It's the only one we really enjoy. It's when we're all done, we just sit there in kind of this euphoric state, and it was leg day, and we're going to feel it tomorrow, but it's worth it.
So, Stan, what are your training goals as of right now?
I just have to stay as big and jacked and as strong as I can until my 9-year-old daughter gets out of high school. I got to intimidate those little pricks when the time comes. She already told me she's in 4th grade, and she's like, she said there's this boy that's talking to her, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to beat him up.
Not for long.
Right.
Not for long.
That's really it. And I've talked about it a lot over the last few years. Is that my goal now is to be able to train, to enjoy training, injury-free, to be as healthy and durable as possible, as long as possible. So I rehabbed some significant injuries that I talked about, chronic, I shouldn't say significant. I never had surgery, but knee pain, hip pain, those kinds of things, lower back pain. We've all experienced it. So now I'm really trying to be, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of a cure. So I'm really trying to be as proactive as possible. So it allows me to go in and have these fantastic leg days. If I was all jacked up, these would be really disappointing. But everything I do is to make sure that outside the gym is to make sure that I'm as healthy as possible, so I can really pour everything into these. It's kind of the highlight of my week, really, is to hit these big workouts.
Yeah, and he's still really strong. You squat 600 for reps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you're weak.
With no pain. And that's the key thing. And I don't wrap up anymore. I don't put knee wraps on and stuff like that. I want my weakest link to be my weakest link. I'm worried about pushing that pain somewhere else. So I don't lift as much as I used to, and don't care necessarily. But I still try and test myself, just not as often. And again, probably not in such a manner that I might regret the next day or a week later. And so just to me, just being able to feel as though I can do this for another 10 or 20 years is what I think really drives me now. And then to pass that information on to powerlifters or bodybuilders, or even just guys who had some nagging pains and they get up into their 40s and 50s, I'm like, okay, well, here's what you need to do. And that's kind of the message that I deliver a lot today.
Yeah, and it was a really cool thing to see. It was like this give and take. You're like, this is where I'm going to press the gas pedal. This is where I'm going to press the brake. And you just rode that out through the whole session. Yeah. So when it was like go time there at the end, you fucking brought it.
Yeah. Well,
we didn't even have to use the fake plates. I was disappointed.
We described, do you have fake plates here?
Yeah.
We described to the audience, you know, the optimal hypertrophy science as far as where you position your legs and your range of motion and the knee angle, et cetera. And I do just the opposite because I got to try and keep up with an 800-pound squatter in Jason today. So next thing you know, my feet are high and outside and I'm loading my ass. But hey, it's all for Instagram.
Yeah.
And Matt, we were nerding out there on the side, just like talking about the little nuances. And again, we got all that on camera, which was really, really cool to see. But the coaching perspective, you know, it's like how we kind of filtered this training session, which on the outside may look like a world's strongest bodybuilder, right? Like powerlifter, right. Very strength focused, but we focused it in on, you know, Gen Pop. We'd focused it in on like anybody that just wants to be a little bit stronger. It's like kind of taking those nuggets throughout, right?
Well, yeah, because you got to know your audience. So I think, you know, in what we do or what my gym does, we have had high-end athletes, but our bread and butter is going to be Gen Pop. So a lot of times I think, you know, I've lifted with Dave. I've seen Dave do all sorts of crazy stuff to make a meet, or, you know, I know Stan's gone through pain and hell to make a meet. And the things that lifters do isn't what Gen Pop will do.
No.
So the idea is that you have to tailor this and still get people stronger, still get results, but you can't hurt them and you can't even give a perception of pain to them. So picking your spots, I think that's why, you know, we like using a concurrent model quite a bit, because it gives you options where to sub things. If somebody, you know, like on a linear or something like that, unlike a linear or a block where it's really structured, that requires the client to be really structured outside the gym. And if they're doing the Butch Reynolds cheeseburger a day diet, and they can't make a 20-pound jump every week in their squat, or even a 5 or 10-pound jump on their bench. So we have to be able to kind of get around them, so to speak, and still get them results.
And understand, Matt still strength trains his clients. That's the most effective method. It's not Metcons. They don't come in there and swing battle ropes around. It's not metabolic conditioning. He knows that's not the most effective method to lose weight anyhow. More cardio does not equal more weight loss. So he's still strength training him, but he's not fixated on, say, a squat, bench, deadlift. Matt has a board on the wall, and I think this is extraordinary. Most of the times you go into a gym and you see a records board on the wall, and it's just the top lifter. Matt has almost every one of his clients, or the vast majority of them, on this board. And he doesn't just have 3 lifts. It's like 15 lifts up there. There's like all sorts of different maxes. And then when they come in the gym, he tries to have them set a record, a PR, in one of those.
Sure.
And they go up to the board and change it quite frequently. And that's how, I think that's one way that we as coaches draw people in and get them addicted to this process, is even though we know it's neural adaptation initially. It's just you have some coordination. But if you pull on a deadlift and you can deadlift 100 pounds, neat. 3 days later, you deadlift 110. Next week, you come back and you do a double there. That's exactly how you tie people in. You addict people to this progressive strength training, and it's the most effective in terms of retaining lean body mass when dieting, or just in terms of stabilizing the body, insulin control for having the muscle. So what Matt just described, that kind of fills in the blanks. He still brings in people who might be up in years, have had significant injuries, or have been somewhat sedentary. And next thing you know, these guys and girls and ladies are deadlifting 200 pounds, 300 pounds. You know, the board's amazing. Yeah. And I have to say one thing about that board too, and I shot a video and never posted it, but I need to do it someday. Both Matt and Jason walked me up there, and every single client, they weren't able to just tell me the person's name that was on the board. They told me their spouse's name, their dog's name, their kid's name, what they do for a living, when the kid graduated, the wedding they attended. They know everything about their clients. It's 90% psychological, and Matt does an extraordinary job of that.
And that was something, Dave, you used to do when you were training clients as well. You had that book. I remember you told us a story on there about kind of just writing down as much information as them as possible. Right?
Well, it started because I couldn't remember their name. Right? Actually, started because of a sales thing. Yeah. And because I only had 1 or 2 clients, and everybody else had to get. But I could talk to people on the floor. So I would talk to somebody and they're walking on the treadmill doing their treadmill shit, right?
Yeah.
And then I get their name and run back and because we did their laundry at the club I worked at.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, Jill, red shorts, purple and green Adidas.
Yeah.
Right. And then I would put that in that book, and then they'd all have their own name. And long story short, over a period of time, I was able to use that to build the relationships to where I would be walking in like, hey, Jill, how's it going? How was Tommy? You know, how does the softball game go this weekend? Great. Then say a month later, it's like, hey, Jill, I just had a cancellation. Is there something that you would like me to help you with? It's on me. You know, let's go to the abs or, you know, whatever it's going to be that they want. That was my way in. So I built the relationship, then I could train them. And then, is this something you'd be interested in moving forward? Well, of course.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, I had 50 billable hours a week in personal training and a waiting list and a book full of all that stuff. So then that just moved into kind of what you're talking about with the board and the record is I had different indicators for everybody, the Gen Pop. And it wasn't all strength training. This is a long time ago. So I was using anything I could find. So yes, I used the stupid sit and reach box.
Sure.
It was an
Stan's
indicator.
favorite.
It was a metric. It's right there. Sure. So, and it was in the ACSM gold book of fucking things, right? So I had that. I had push-ups. I had box squats. I had all the strength training stuff. 1 minute or the mile time walking, whatever it was on the grade. So I had all these things, and then I would break them down into 4 categories. There was lion was the top. Then it was like lion, tiger, panther, cheetah, or something like that. So all I did was to take all the charts that were in the ACSM, ACE, and NSCA book, because it ranked everything from 0 to 100%. I figured, okay, 25 to 100%, that's the lion.
Right.
And then just built the categories down. And then the very bottom was body fat percentage. And that was highlighted a different color because I had to refer to a registered dietitian because legally I cannot do that.
Right.
I can educate, but it also kind of gave me an out because they're Gen Pop. They're not going to listen to what you're going to say. So here's Allison's card. She's a registered dietitian. Get a hold of her. She'll take care of you. We work together. So when I would take the body fat and it wasn't where it should be.
It's Allison's fault.
Well, yeah. I mean, when's the last, I would say that. I'm like, when's the last time that you spoke to Allison? Because you've gone from, you know, a panther to a cheetah on these 5 things. This here, that's still, you know, the beginner or whatever.
When's the last time you ate a pizza?
Yeah. So I would have people that would, the goal was to be a lion, right? So if they moved certain number of indicators, I would send a little certificate to their house they can put on their refrigerator and shit like that and move them all through. But that became the core of the whole training I did with them because it probably like what you're doing now, you got all those indicators on the board. So when they come in, even if you don't really want to write a program, it's like, okay, we need to move these forward. Where are they now? What can we do today to get better in one of these things? And keep moving them forward. It's just, mine was more than just the strength though.
Right.
You know, I wanted, because they needed to walk. They needed to move, you know, so, and I went and trained that, you know, and they needed flexibility too, because they were stiff as hell, but I wasn't going to be a trainer that's going to sit there and watch them walk on the treadmill for half hour.
Sure, nor should you.
Or stretch them out. It's like, this is your, this is your shit. We got a half hour. We're going to train hard. We're going to move these forward. And it worked really well because I had a hard time getting clients coming in more. Like if they started at 2 days a week, they stayed there.
Right.
I couldn't get them to 3. If they started at 1, which I still in my mind, it goes back and forth because it's kind of pointless, right? But the other part is, well, fuck, it's better than nothing. Then the other side of my brain says, well, is it really?
Isn't that the Marty Gallagher one day a week?
And it's like, well, but from a training schedule though, it's kind of a pain in the ass though, because say it's Thursday at 1, your normal client might be Tuesday, Thursday. They have a routine, you know, that they want to follow. Well, now you just, that Thursday at 1 fucks up your Tuesday at 1. You know, so it was a crazy thing, but same type of concept, you know, with that. And it's Gen Pop, you know, so anything that you can do to keep them, you got to keep them consistent past the beginner gains.
Well, and you hit on something there. You not only said that 1 day a week might not be effective, neither is like a 2-month program necessarily, because there's no finish line. a lot of people have a particular goal that they want to reach and think that that's the end of the deal. And so Matt's been very good about, even up front, just say, look, this is, once you've lost 10 pounds, then what? You have to continue to do something to maintain these, to retain your progress. You go right back to where you were. Matt, mostly Matt, and I have a book out called Building a Career and How to Build a Career in the Fitness Industry. And we specifically didn't say how to make money in the fitness industry, because a career,
it's different.
The intention is that you can make a living and buy a home and raise a family, and this is about you making a quick buck. And most of Matt's clients, he has a chalkboard on the wall that has clients that have been with him for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's all on the walls. These
20.
are 20 years, some of them. Yeah, I do, because I travel so much, I do mostly online. I do a lot of hands-on stuff now. I don't develop as deep of a relationship as I used to when I was doing hands-on training, and I don't train them as long as you would if you were engaged with them on a regular basis. But I wanted Matt, since we're talking about this kind of thing, there's some key components that a personal trainer who wants to make a career in the business industry that you outlined in that book, things that everyone probably should migrate towards doing in order to be successful, and run down the top 3 or 5 or whatever.
Well, it's funny listening to Dave. I think the best thing you did was how you talked about setting things home and knowing your clients intimately, because, we have, like Stan said, we do at this point $1 million a year in personal training. I don't do any of the training anymore, but my trainers do. I've never had somebody call and say, like, I'm not sure my kid should be doing bands. He's a raw lifter. Like,
No.
Like what? Why? No one's like, why aren't we doing a block periodization? But they do call me and say, I really appreciate your trainer sent me a note or remembered my anniversary. So it's the old line, right? Nobody cares what you know until they know that you care.
Texted them that evening or the next day and say, how do you feel about the workout?
And so like you sending those things home, even the lion, the cheetah, or the lion, the tiger, cheetah, that was probably more important. And it's funny because it happens even at a high level when we get a pro athlete. Like when Stan and I went out to train John, it's like I got the force velocity curves. We're going to show him how overspeed treadmill works.
He don't.
And Stan said something to him about like hypertrophy, and he's like, "What's hypertrophy?"
No, you don't.
And it's not this. And what I try to explain to trainers is this is for us, and you should be a content expert. You should constantly. One of the things we talk about is be curious. You should be constantly. We make all our trainers compete in a strength sport. You cannot be a trainer for us if you don't, because that's how you know. Like Jason's over there, he's our head trainer, squats 800 raw and knee reps. And I remember when he squatted 720, he hurt his back. And like he was like, I watched him come into work. I'm like, I don't know how he's gonna like live. He's got 2 little boys. I'm like, I'm worried about him. He came back and squatted 780 the next meet. If somebody comes to Jason and says like, my back's killing me, and I just want to be normal, that's a layup. It's a joke. It's like, oh, I came back and broke my squat record. You have to push the envelope, but you do it for you and for your knowledge. Your client doesn't care. I've never had a client go, Louis thinks you should go. His percentages are higher than Matt Wenning's. They don't know who Louis or Ed Cohen came to our gym. No one knew who he was.
Yeah.
It's our world, but you have to care about people and make these relationships. And I think that's what gets you better results anyway.
No, but what I found, obviously I haven't trained clients in forever.
Sure.
But what I found was the media is where they were getting their source of health information.
Yeah.
Right.
That's tough.
So that's what was weird for me, because now I had to start paying attention to what was being discussed on the news or the Morning America shows or whatever that other crap was, because I know I was going to get asked about it.
Sure.
Because they're going to see Good Morning America or whatever it was, and they're going to come in and say, you know what do you think about this diet? And I never wanted to be that person that was like, I need to look that up.
Right.
So, and if you're a professional and you've been around, you can see whatever that diet is, and within 5 minutes you're like, oh, okay, this is just this low carb. You can decide, like programs, right? You can look, if you're an expert in this field, you can look at anybody's 12-week program and look at it and say, okay, this is block, this is linear, this is conjugate, this is bodybuilding, or this is just bullshit. It's pretty easy, right? Yeah. So I don't know how that is today. I'm probably even worse today.
Yeah, sure. I got to tell you, when I was studying exercise science at the University of Oregon, I was 20 years old. I took a job at a box gym and trying to do personal training, and then even subsequent to college. But I had to have a full-time job. because you couldn't support yourself on personal training revenue. That is not the case today. And I've traveled all over the world and I've met thousands of trainers. Good Life brought me up to Canada to train their trainers. I went from gym to gym to gym and to present to a lot of trainers. And I talked about some of these foundational principles because it's not just about, like Matt said, you need to be a master of your craft. You need to have your knowledge. But at the same time, if you can't stay in business, if you can't support yourself, then you're not going to be of much value to your client. And so, Matt kind of composed some principles in this book that I still want him to kind of go down some of the big rocks. He uses this as an employee manual for his employees, and if they have a question about their marketing or their retention of a client, he just refer them to it. And it's something that he's developed and been working for years, and is extremely successful. And most of his trainers do over $100,000 a year. And gross, some of them much more than that. Yeah. And this isn't like your $200 an hour. I live in downtown New York client. Right. This is in Cincinnati, Ohio. My client pays $25 to $35 a session, really. So this is more normal. This is more replicable to your typical box gym trainer who's struggling to stay in that business and has to work a side job. So run down some of the top things.
Well, I think some of the big things are, one, I always think about be authentic. And I went to one of your seminars, Dave, and I kind of chimed on it because one thing I think that's made you really successful, one, like, you have simple values. 3 words sum it up, right? Mm-hmm. Be who you are. The CrossFit's kind of like, I can't tell you how many things have come and gone in 20 years of owning gyms. And people are like, you can open spinning or you're going to have this. I'm like, no, we do barbell. Yeah, we're training. and we don't do anything we don't do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean, so I always say, like, if you're into yoga, then do it.
Open a yoga studio.
And but that's really what you should really be about it. Because if you're not, like, we make people train or compete because essentially what we're doing is fixing people with the barbell. If you think about like what all of us do, if somebody came in here and said to Sam, I want to get faster, we'd say, go squat. Mm-hmm. If a girl came in and said, I want to look better, we'd probably say, go squat. And if you said, boy, my knees hurt, we'd probably say, go squat. So at the end of the day, you better know how to squat or teach a squat. So being authentic is number one. I think number two, you can't train one-on-one anymore. Mm-mm. It's just it's a time killer. I think you need to learn how to train in small groups.
Yeah, what's an hour of your time worth, and what can the client afford to pay consistently? You can't charge $100 an hour to the mass population, and they won't stay with you for an extended period of time. So you're going to have to get more income out of your hour, but you're going to have to share. You're going to have more than one client.
Yeah. And I think you got to learn how to sell that. So for us, we'd say, hey, look, it's actually more camaraderie. It's more fun to train with a group. And, I like you, I started one-on-one. It's hard after a couple of weeks. It's like, you got somebody 3 hours a week.
But it's a skill to do more than one. If you're doing 2, or if you're doing 6 or 8, like Jason could do in an hour, and still make sure that every single person is getting personal attention. Yeah. Nobody's sitting there looking at their watch. That's a killer right there. It's a skill set. And we've done something that I don't think anybody else in the industry is offering, because Matt runs an actual gym and trains actual clients. Matt has said, if you buy the book and then you want to come out and learn and shadow his trainers, you're welcome to come out. Just hit him up, DM him. We got contact information in the book. You can come out to Cincinnati and watch Jason work with 8 or 12 clients hour after hour after hour for the whole morning that he's there, and see how every single person gets. Now, this isn't group training.
Yeah, it's not a class.
It's not a class. These people are actually getting their individual program progressed according to their needs. You have an 18-year-old and a 60-year-old. 18-year-old high school wrestler boy training with a 60-year-old housewife who was in a car accident at the same time, but not doing the same program because they have individual needs. And Jason can manage that because he's very experienced. But Matt shows you, and we talk about in the book, how to manage that, because it's a skill set. You have to gradually build into that.
And we get into the specifics, but for example, if somebody's doing a heavy squat or a max squat or whatever, you spot that. If somebody's doing a plank across the room, you don't have to stand over.
Or a lat pull down. You don't need to count reps.
Yeah, one arm row, lat pull
3
down.
more. Yeah. 9, 10. Let me move that pin for you.
And the reality is, people think, if you think about, we worked out for an hour today. It's not a cardio class. You did a set, I did a set, Jason did a set, change the plate, do it again. So it's not as if, there's a lot of filler in there. So maybe I'm spotting Dave on squats, I might have Sam doing 1 arm rows. Now Sam goes over to bench. I might say, Dave, this probably wouldn't do a powerlifter, but you might, if it was GP, general pop, I'd say, Dave, why don't you lunge down and back or do 20 side bends on each side while I spot Sam. Yeah, so you can, but what I always found too was easier. I said it was like hosting a party, which I'm sure you kind of do this every day when people are always coming to visit Elite FTS. If you didn't introduce us to Sam and everybody else, now the pressure's on you.
To entertain everybody.
Yeah, so kind of getting everybody, building a community is really a big part of it where, you know, you're actually getting them. It's a big benefit in a lot of ways. One, they're not just leaving you. If they were to decide to leave, now they're leaving all the people they go to work out with.
Family.
You know, Panora came down one time, and Phil Harrington, they both went to work there, and then they go, this is like a cleaned up West Side. And I said, kind of, you know. If you come in, we do a lot of the same stuff. So but it's more polished, obviously. You know, black windows and
yeah. You know. How about billing? You mentioned you got to train more than one person an hour. How do you set up billing so that you have fewer drop-offs?
You got to go auto pay.
Yeah.
It's funny. We should bring Jason over. We tell a story. Auto pay came from two things. Number one, I don't know about you, Dave, I hated tracking sessions. You know, somebody buys 50 sessions and they're like, oh, I thought I had 7 left. And you're like, no, you have 6. And you're like, auto. So one year I just said, I'm done. It's, you know, we did $400 a month. You come as much as you want. I don't care.
Whenever you want. That's another thing. You don't have to worry about scheduling, because if you can train 6 or 10 people in any given hour, then come in what's convenient to you, and you're not like, oh, you're late.
So one of the traders was like, oh, you're crazy. You're going to kill your per session average. I said, I don't think so. I said, one, I don't care. 2, I don't think so. And then, you know, snow hits, sick days.
Yeah, wintertime, Thanksgiving,
holidays,
Christmas, people stop showing up.
Vacations. I mean, even now with Corona, I don't know if you guys have heard of Corona, but
the beer, right? The beer?
Yeah. You got to beep that out so we don't get fact checked too.
Yeah, but now if somebody's like, oh, you know, we got to quarantine, I'm like, all right, come back when you're ready, but we don't lose any revenue.
Right.
So it's nice. And they win because if they show up more, you know, sometimes somebody does beat you, and it's like, so what? They're in great shape. They're a great customer, and they're a walking billboard. Great, beat me.
Yeah, referrals. That's huge.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing is, you know, nobody, like little Donnie Thompson would say, no one cares about your sumo deadlift. No. Nobody cares. I think you got to learn how to go business to business and knock on doors to build your clientele. I see so many people. I was telling Sam, you know, they'll post on, you know, here's my sumo deadlift. DM me if you're interested in. It's like, I'm sure.
Only 3 spots left.
Yeah,
man. I rolled with that for a while.
Look, and if you want to do social media marketing and become the next social media guru, that's fine. There's people that do that. I've had a very successful business there. I would never, deter anybody from trying that. But I had the good fortune of a lot of publicity over the years that a lot of people don't have in magazines and YouTube videos and on fucking Shark Tank. And, so I understand that, and I'm not going to tell somebody who nobody knows that they could as easily accumulate clientele as I did. But for the most part, your clients live within 5 miles of your gym, and there's a lot of them, and damn near everyone's a client. We got 70% overweight and obesity in this country, and the rest of them probably are getting poor sleep or are tired from lack of energy, or might have a physical goal, sports of some sort. Everybody's a client. It's funny to be around Matt because he's the consummate salesman. He has a whole chapter in the book on how to design a script and to practice it and rehearse it so it becomes natural, and how to utilize it and how to approach clients, and how not to just hand somebody a business card and think that that's closing the deal. It's absolutely worthless. Nobody calls you.
Do they even exist anymore?
No.
Business cards?
Yeah.
And anywhere I go with Matt, whether it's a restaurant or a grocery store, it doesn't matter. The gas station, he's like tapping on the guy next to us at the pump. He's like, so hey, where do you train? And he's opening up. Next thing you know, he's got phone numbers, and that guy's calling, and he's closing deals right in front of me. And I'm just like, this guy's just a master. But he just asks. He's confident enough to ask for the sale, which is a key component of
I think the thing we talk about, one of our core values is be curious, and that applies to your training, right? You should constantly be pushing the envelope, trying to get better, learn more stuff. But it applies to others. I think I know my story. Dave's got a really interesting story. It's been told you have an interesting story. I know about you and your mom working in the bakery, and how you grew up working at the 7-Elevens, and you went out and got bigger because you worked on your Amish farm. It was your uncle's Amish farm.
Yeah.
People are fascinating, and the most interesting thing people like to talk about is themselves. and get to know people. It's a lot better way to live. One, I think you'll get more friends, more enjoyable life. But two, I can't help you if I don't know anything about you. We're solving problems, right? You know, like everybody at this table probably has something. Probably Sam, you probably have something you want to achieve. I know Stan needs bigger calves. But whatever it is, I don't know unless I get to know you and find out about you. And even generating referrals, if, you know, I'm sure you did the same thing. It's like, well, you're always talking about your girlfriend. Why don't you bring her in? Yeah. You know, or, oh yeah, I should. And then you gotta follow through. Say, oh, well, you know, nowadays you didn't have text back then, but I'll just say like, well, group text us right now. We'll get it started. You know, take action. I think in all business,
people want to be helped. They really do. They want you to take control and help them meet that goal. But you don't know what their problem is or what their goals are unless you ask. Yeah. A lot of people, they want to go up and immediately tell you their credentials. Oh, I have a bachelor's of science and I was a powerlifter, and they don't care. What you have to find out is what they want, who they are, what they need. And Matt's very good about that. And I'm just amazed at how much people will tell you if you're interested and ask about them. And then you utilize that to provide them a solution to their problem. And our solution, obviously, is going to be in the gym training.
And I think you have to take the approach that you're not the show. You know, I think that's a thing that trainers a lot of times think they're the show. You're not the show. It's about the customer. And I always, I always think of it this way. You got to be on, because like in our business, people pay us $450 a month, and our trainers do a great job. Any of the trainers we've had to let go of, in part of that process of letting them go, I'll say, hey, you really weren't on today. And they're like, well, my girlfriend was bothering me or this. And I'm like, well, what if the client said, this month I'll pay you $360? I don't feel like, it's like they paid full price, give them the full service, and you're a service provider, and it's not for everybody. We learned that coaching, pro athletes. We're not the show.
I'll tell you a specific story. So I've been away from doing one-on-one training for quite a while. I'm doing a lot of online training, but I cut my teeth on one-on-one training for a couple of decades there. And so we're down there training John Jones, and he wants to do ab work after every session, after every MMA session in the evening. And I'm talking about like flutter kicks and this stuff. Yeah. And so I'm in there explaining to him that doesn't work, that doesn't build core, and blah, blah, blah. And Matt's like elbowing me. And I'm like, oh, what? He goes, look, if you don't do it for him, he'll find somebody who will. And so then you try and get them what they want, but incorporate things that work better, so it's all part of the same request. And that's when we're adding suitcase carries and those kinds of things to actually work the core and med ball throws. But you got to do some flutter kicks. We would do 300 different flutter kick type exercises after crunches. And I mean, my stomach was sore as hell, but I knew it was worthless for the core, as it may be. But that's what you do, and sometimes it takes time. And you provide the education over time rather than just trying to come in there and tell them what they need.
You got to build that trust. Right?
100%.
So if, say, he thinks that works, right? Yeah. So now you're saying it doesn't. You're already breaking that bond of trust, where when I will consult with coaches in regards to the development of their plan. So that's why I have glass tables, is I'll have them start writing. So it's the same me and you were talking about training, and you wanted help. We're going to start talking about everything that you think works for you.
Right.
You've been doing this for how long? 80 years, 50 years, 40 years, a long fucking time, right? So you've been doing this for 4 decades probably, maybe more, a long time. Yeah. There's a lot that you immediately know, nope, not for me.
Right.
Yep, for me. I want to know what that is. So if I'm working with collegiate coach and we just start mapping all that out, and the way I like to explain it, I can fill 3/4 of this table. So once we fill 3/4 of the table, then the conversation shifts to say, you came here looking for consulting on training advice, but you already got 70% of this figured out. So let's not erase the table and start with a blank slate. Don't go to anybody that's going to tell you to erase your table and start with a blank slate. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's, Louis, or if it's, there's certain people or Jim, if certain people represent different training methodologies. Louis Westside, Jim's 531, nothing, Ripito starting straight, nothing against those guys, but that's their philosophy. Don't expect that they're going to change their philosophy. Right. But if you go to a lot of these guys and you don't keep your mind open, they will indirectly, I don't think they do it on purpose, want you to erase the whole table.
Yeah.
And then start with everything that they think. I think that's wrong, especially if there's 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, let's figure out the 30% that you don't know. And if I can't help you there, I can tell you who can.
Yeah.
So let's figure that out and make the table full.
Yeah.
Where that ties right back into what you're saying is, so with John Jones, 70, part of that 70%, yeah, it might be a little off. It could be dialed in. It could all be dialed in.
Yeah.
But it's not worth erasing when we still have that 30% to fill.
Right.
Let's fill that. Then when the table's full, let's audit the things on the table and start.
And I like something you said, Dave. You give them respect, because I've said that to them. I said, look, you got 15. You're 27-0. I'm 0-0.
Yeah.
You got to respect that he's stepped up 27 times and 27 times he won.
Yeah,
So it's not terrible.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And we can write out the greatest program in the world, but if we can't actually implement or execute that program. When I first sat down with John, I had written out a whole lot of stuff that I had intended or just felt from my experience that we'd be implementing. But the first page on my notebook when I opened it up was blank. And I said, John, this is your page. And I sat down and asked him, I said, how do you envision yourself winning this fight? And what do you think you need to get there? And he just started talking. And he was animated, and he stood up, and he was moving around, and he was showing me exactly what he wanted to do, and it was just coming to life. And I was just writing. This is what John needs. This is what John wants. And then I could flip the page, and I was already most of the way there. I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to do that. You have your goal, I have the path to get there. And so he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. And so we could start to get him to the end, show him the means to get there. And that was critical. But let your client tell you what they want. And then you got to start asking the questions you mentioned earlier in terms of diet and exercise. I had said, oh, you want him to lift weights. I've always said the best diet's the one you'll follow. And the best exercise is the one you'll do. And so that's where you start.
Yeah.
You know, what will this person do consistently? And then can you start to incorporate things or even give them things that they weren't even aware of that they might enjoy, both in terms of foods, methods of dieting, whether it be, intermittent fasting or keto. Maybe they'd enjoy that. Maybe they'd feel better there. You don't know. I'm not, I don't care. And same with the exercises, because we have such a large palette of exercises. Start introducing them to other options. Like, oh, that feels good. I still do that. We did that today. We tried about 4 different machines. Oh, I like this one. And that's how our day started today. We just walked around. We knew kind of what we were going to do, but we wanted to pick the exact exercise that felt great. We tried a few different hack squats and leg presses first. So, this one feels good. Try this one. And we kind of honed in on that one, and then everything went to hell from there.
And that process is so important for people to realize. That happens, between you guys, that was just kind of how you communicate. But that takes years and years of experience to realize, like, okay, this is the goal, and these are the tools that we have at our disposal. What is the best way to facilitate that goal for that day at that time for that person?
Yeah.
And like that's where that skill set or that experience, like you had said, all your coaches are compete.
They have to.
They have to, right?
Yeah,
so
it's part of the deal.
So at the end of the day is if you are in a position where you cannot better facilitate the growth of that person in front of you, like it doesn't matter the programming prowess that you have, like you have to create whatever that person needs at that time, right?
Yeah.
Well, the big thing about competing is twofold. Number one, and Dave, you have so many strength coaches in here. I can't stand people who use piss poor coaching and their excuse is, well, we're not powerlifters. It's like, well, you're teaching the squat, so could you their de facto default when it's like that's terrible is like, well, we're not powerlifters.
No, but they'll be the first to tell you that the powerlifter has shitty mobility,
right?
But the powerlifter can't say, well, we're not athletes.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. So it works both ways. So that's how I deal with that.
Yeah, that's a good comeback. But it's funny. And the other thing that I had a coach say to me once, I said, have you ever thought about powerlifting? He's a smart guy, and he's well respected in our field. But he said, "Oh, it's so one-dimensional." I'm like, "So sprinting? Do you not think Usain Bolt's impressive?" What it is they think it's so easy. It's like, well, then go do it, and then you're like, let's see how you do after a year, 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
If it's so easy to be a bodybuilder, go be a bodybuilder.
I mentioned earlier during our workout, there's no such thing as functional training.
No.
It doesn't exist. There's weight classes for a reason. Whatever sport you're involved in, if you can get bigger, stronger, and faster, not always bigger if there's weight classes, but certainly stronger and faster, you're going to perform better at that sport. Who was it that the tennis player came out and talked about all his weightlifting? And
Jim Courier.
Jim Courier was smashing everybody for years, and he comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I used weightlift."
Well, he did a Nike commercial.
Yeah, and then all the other tennis players started weightlifting and started smoking him.
Well, I was kind of wondering, like at what point in time did the squat become non-functional?
Yeah.
Like, how is the deadlift not functional?
Right.
Do you not pick shit up every day?
But you know what that is? It's an excuse from a bad strength coach to say, "Oh, well, we do functional training." It's like,
Well, I mean,
right.
we can go down a rant right here.
yeah,
Right.
What is that?
Picking exercises that are more
please
close to their
define it.
sport.
And then I know you've read all these books,
But is that functional or is that
It's not
sport
effective.
specific?
It's not effective.
But what's funny
in
is
many
sport
cases.
specific by definition, not our, by the true definition, it has to match
I know.
velocity, direction,
I know.
duration. So I had somebody once say like, I can't remember what we had the guy doing, and this guy was into functional training. It was these tennis guys, and like, I've never seen Roger Federer do that. I said, I've never seen a Bosey ball on the court either. So
yeah. I just like to play
I've never
the
seen
game
court
with.
move.
I just like to play the game. It's not really a game, I suppose, because there are a lot of people that I've met over the years that are what you would consider big into that, right nor wrong.
Yeah.
I just want to know how they define it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You
not
like
defined.
what? Like, tell me what you. It's another thing that I talk about with training is volume. Like, people will define that. If we're to talk about volume, I can't have this conversation until we both all agree.
Yeah.
Are we talking about workload, sets times reps times weight,
Right.
or are we talking about sets times reps?
Right.
Because to me, sets times reps is volume, right? Sets times reps times weight is workload. That's textbook.
Right.
So a lot of people will say workload is volume. And so now the conversation gets all fucked
Then
up,
we get into
right?
junk volume.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
Then
we
you
get
get
into
into all these
exercise
different
instead of
things,
training.
right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, yeah, I like to really push the volume high. And I'm like, okay, so is that like workload? Like, what are we talking about here? Because volume to me, like, you could do 10 sets to 10, a side raises of 15 pounds.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, just like
you know
you
what I'm saying?
said.
That's
no,
100
right.
reps. Right, 100 reps there is completely different than 100 reps at 70% on the squat.
100%. You defined it as it should be defined.
Yes.
We cap that off. It's sets times reps times weight. And I want Matt to repeat for the audience, for those people who are unfamiliar, again, what is functional training? Matt, you said it was three things. It has to be three things.
Sport specific is duration,
Or sport specific.
sport specific, yeah,
training.
yeah.
duration, velocity, and direction.
Duration, velocity, and direction. So you have to make sure that you're meeting that criterion for the specific sport.
And it's funny because even years ago, right, we had talked about how I trained baseball players even when I was playing.
Yeah.
At the time, one of the things that coaches would have you do is they would have you swing a weighted bat.
Yeah.
And how fucking stupid is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Now we know.
It's like, all right, you play tennis, weighted tennis racket.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And it's just the idea of if you're training in the gym, if you follow those parameters, it should help you benefit on the court or on the field or whatever.
A 10-pound med ball for free throws.
Well, that's why we started.
Right.
That's why we started using overspeed training, because you're like Louis always talk about. That's what I came up with when I was 19. So the Olympic guys, like the Olympic lifts, that's going like 0.8 to a meter a second. Speed squats are 0.8 to a meter a second. And I'm like, well, these guys are running 10 to 12 meters a second. That's not speed to them. So we started pushing overspeed treadmills as a method to really work. That would be sport-specific speed training. It's not like we don't use speed training in our weightlifting, or powerlifting, or strength training, whatever you want to call it. But I would laugh when the Olympic guys are like, oh, our velocity curve. I'm like, you're at a meter a second. Bolt's running 12 and a half. How do you equate that to it? It's not that if you like Olympic lifting, great. And if you like, but they're not right in what they're trying to define. They're using the wrong terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, me and Dave have sat down and talked about that quite a bit. Is if you're going into the situation without the terms in agreement,
Right, yeah.
then you're just talking in circles, and that's pretty much what happens on the internet most of the time. People just fucking talking in circles and shit. You know what I mean? It's like who's more right or who's less wrong.
Right.
But a lot of these terms have been so diluted over the years, though, that there's still a lot of knowledge in the diluted term from the person that you're speaking to, because that's all they've always known. So to me, it's a matter of let's just get on the same page on these basic definitions, or at least just tell me what you think it is, and I'll adjust my thinking for that. Because people will say, and I don't want to name people, but there's very prominent people in the strength industry that are really wrong on how they use a lot of definitions. I mean, very wrong, to the point where a lot of people are like, oh, he's a fucking idiot. Like, maybe you ought to just like figure out why they're defining it that way, then listen to the other 80% of what they're talking about. And this motherfucker's a genius. He's been doing it for 45 years, producing high-level athletes just because he didn't go to college to learn the proper definitions, and has been living on rubber, grass, and turf for 40 years. Doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing. In contrast, he does, right? Because he's got hundreds of thousands of hours or whatever it is of experience, and you're criticizing him because he doesn't understand the proper term for workload.
Well, Matt talked about this earlier when we were over here training. Matt talked about this earlier. He said that a lot of folks will implement their 3 basic movements, doing a linear progression until they get hurt.
Yeah.
And we've all been there, and I just wait. I'm patient. I've been at this for 35 plus years. I've seen all of the gimmicks come and go, all these fancy programs.
Seen them come and go a couple times now.
Come and go a couple times now, and reemerge on TikTok. And I just wait. I'm patient. I see this all the time. It's just, as soon as they get injured, next thing you know, they're doing a whole variety of
that's right.
of similar exercises, and doing a whole lot more 70% load volume, and you see it happen. Or you watch the flashes in the pan that talk about their program, and then 10 years later, they disappeared. Why? Well, they've accumulated so many injuries over that short period of time that they can't compete anymore.
So, Dave, you'd like this. Jason and I, our head trainer over there, went to a seminar, and won't say who, but it was for like performance, and it turned into a Bash Louis Simmons seminar.
That's great.
And I'm just sitting there. I told Stan this, I read a lot of these books that people quote. Now, I don't want to say it to brag, I just did.
Yeah.
So the one guy gets up and starts talking about, as one thing goes up, one thing goes down. I said, that's Charlie Francis's vertical integration. The guy's like, good question. Too good a question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because it's like, you don't have to, you can just say where you got it. It's not, none of us are Christopher Columbus. Mm-hmm. But then all those guys are out of the sport.
They're all
those guys who were killing Louis, and they were out of the sport, bad out of the sport.
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why they're out of the sport, though, because
these are injuries.
I mean, take anybody that's calling anybody in the industry kind of out by name for whatever they're doing. Those people don't last long.
Never.
Right? So anybody that's anybody that's trying to make their building bigger by taking others down never lasts, right? They can still make their point in that presentation without bashing somebody else.
Yeah.
Just make your point.
Right.
Just say what you want to coach, say what you want to say, get rid of the filler that you're just trying to use to garner attention, because what typically happens is not everybody in that audience is going to be like, yeah, fuck Louis, or yeah, fuck Ripito, or
right.
Half of them are like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of this?
Right.
Yeah.
So you just alienated half of your audience.
Right.
Just for something that's unnecessary.
Yeah, I said at lunch, I said that oftentimes I have to qualify agreeing with something that somebody said with, I don't agree with everything.
Well, that kind of should be a given, though, right?
Agreed. And I don't expect everybody to agree with everything I say. What works for me might not work for you. And what works for most people probably doesn't work for everyone. And so it's like you said earlier, you said about asking someone what works for them. Oddly enough, in my questionnaire that I give to my clients, I ask them, what do you think works for you? And if I can't come up with a really good reason why it actually hurts their performance, I leave it alone. Even though I know the science will say that it's just placebo, I don't fuck with it. The guy thinks it works for him. Placebo is powerful. It's real. It works. And so I just leave it alone. I don't have to go in there and be like, oh, well, this study says this.
The other question to ask is what didn't work.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you throw that out there, their brain is just going to recall, oh, didn't work.
I put that in there as well.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend it unless it's compelling that I find a way that maybe they were doing it wrong and it would provide
and most
benefit.
likely they were not doing it right.
Yeah.
So there was some disconnect.
Placebo is important.
Yeah.
So I think now would be a good time to kind of shift gears a little bit. We have mentioned consistency. We've mentioned longevity. I know we've gotten a lot of questions from our audience specifically. Stan, you've obviously done quite a bit of work in terms of diet, nutrition, and kind of those big rocks in terms of increasing performance and health markers and whatnot. I think what I kind of want to go into right now is our audience roughly has been training for about 2 to 5 years. They want to get a little bit stronger. They want to look better naked, right? What are some of the bigger rocks in terms of either nutritional marker, like blood markers, any of that, that you feel as if are probably some of the more important things to focus in on first and foremost as that foundation?
I'm a broken record, and it's one of the things that it frustrates me so much that I can't, I can't wave my pom-poms about something obscure. It's the same thing. I keep repeating myself. I see comments. Stan says the same thing every time. Well, that's because that's what fucking works. And so, and I also said in another video, look, there's nothing extraordinary about anything I say, but are you doing it? Show me. Everybody wants to show me every set and rep and everything they've ever done. Show me your hours of sleep. Show me how many calories or protein you've consumed. I'm more interested in those kinds of those consistent things.
Recovery modalities.
Exactly. I think most of my success, I think the majority of us train pretty hard. I really do think that. Unless you're, some Mankini competitor or something like that, it could be different. Or the old pre-contest, raise your reps, lighten your weight sort of folks, they don't count. But
that's some old school shit.
It's
right
an old school shit. At least I think we've learned better that, you really do have to have some degree of intensity. And I think we enjoy it more. For those people who stay in the sport, I think we enjoy, that intensity, really dumping ourselves in the gym. Most people train hard. I think what they lack possibly is outside the gym, the recovery, because it's not exciting, but it really obviously recover from and prepare for the next bout, and that bout should be superior to the prior bout. Otherwise, it's exercise, not training. There has to be some progression. Sets times rep times weight is really what it comes down to over time. And so I focus right back on the big rock is going to be sleep. And optimizing sleep, not just the quantity, but the quality. And I have a whole, that's why my book is not, it's the vertical diet, but it's not just nutrition. I talk, each chapter is everything that I want my clients to do. And I start there, and I've had big athletes, Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, over 400 pounds, snore like freight trains, not wearing CPAPs. Lane Johnson of Philadelphia Eagles, over 300 pounds, not wearing a CPAP. These guys have apnea. And it has a major effect on their recovery. Obviously, their blood sugars has a huge effect on their blood pressure. So those
arrhythmia. I mean, there's so many other things.
100%. Yeah, their blood thickness. Kind of a quick aside here. We've had some athletes, some high-profile athletes over the last few years, and you and I have seen them for decades now. It's just not been as popular, but now it's as we see the more popular athletes in social media. We've seen some pass away, and it's led us to believe that there's something awry going on amongst our industry of bodybuilders and powerlifters and strongmen. There was a really good research report done on this. Greg Nuckols talked about it in a recent podcast where somebody had done had taken a look and compared bodybuilders and powerlifters to the general population. It appears as though there isn't a significant what you call a statistical increase in bodybuilders dying as opposed to the general population. I don't think that's good news because cardiovascular disease obviously is our number one killer, and the vast majority of our population is overweight and obese and has type 2 diabetes. And we're supposed to be a health-oriented bodybuilding to some degree. And I understand that I did a video on YouTube called "If You Want to Be Healthy, Don't Compete." I get it.
Well, yeah, we're excluding that.
Yeah, it's a different group of folks.
Yeah.
The primary drivers of that, though, once I dispel the myth that people are dropping like flies because they bodybuild, because the vast majority of people are doing just fine, is high blood pressure and blood thickness. And those are probably the two leading, like, kill you now problems. And the majority of these people, as we think through the names, and we all know them, and I won't highlight them here today, they were off season. They were at a pretty heavy weight, 270, 280, 300 plus pounds. And I know a few of them, many of them personally, had sleep apnea, didn't wear a CPAP, had a prior condition. A predisposition, whether it's a genetic predisposition. We even saw this with who was the Biggest Loser coach that had a heart attack. His name's escaping me right now, but he was in extraordinary shape, but he had a familial history of heart disease. So Bob Harper was his name.
Yep.
Yeah, if you were looking
just
that
looked
up.
it up.
Yep. Anyhow, going through a whole lot of stuff here just to give some people some general background. So one of the things I've recommended, in addition obviously to sleep and sleep apnea and getting a CPAP, even if you can't go get a sleep study and you can't afford that process, I've been telling people to go on Craigslist and buy a dream station off Craigslist, or find one of those sites that'll sell you one, and I have links in my book, without the need of a prescription, because it's that important. And the drawbacks are, as far as I understand them to be, almost non-existent. I wouldn't recommend somebody usurp the proper pathway through a medical practitioner if there was significant side effects, says the guy using performance-enhancing drugs for 30 years. But I wouldn't recommend it to others. But nonetheless, that's pretty significant for aiding with blood pressure and blood thickness. And then I do a blood test, and I've talked about this for years, which is a good opportunity for me. And I just pulled my phone up here because I wanted to make sure and read this out. I just recently, and I think people know, I've talked about it before, I've done well over 100 blood tests. And I did them almost monthly throughout the later part of my competitive career, just to kind of see how much damage I was doing to myself, or what interventions I used that mitigated some of those problems. And I always did it online. And more recently, this company popped up, Smokey from Mark Bell's group up there at Super Training, reached out to me about this company called MarekHealth.com, M-A-R-E-K, health.com. And their prices are half the price of what I used to pay, which is extraordinary. And so I put together this, and so I reached out to them and I asked them to put together a panel that has all the blood tests that I usually use with my athletes, and to give them a consultation from a medical professional with that. That could be almost a $400 expense. It's probably a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
It's still cheaper because I've always used direct labs.
Yeah.
So I'm paying. I don't want to tell you what I pay for my blood work.
I did too. I paid $700-800 sometimes.
Yeah.
I found a budget panel that was still almost $300 that I used to pay. But didn't have everything. And so I put together that panel. But that's still expensive for some people. When we were bodybuilders and powerlifters, after all. What do you?
Well, my cost is before I see Serrano, so I'm still got to see my doctor.
Right, exactly.
So I got to still pay for that.
Yeah, it's a good time to toss a joke in here. So what do you call a bodybuilder without a girlfriend?
Homeless.
There you go. So I know my clients, right? I'm one of them. I'm a meatneck at heart. I've lived this all my life. So anyhow, real quick. So I put together this budget panel. I went onto their website and I just compared what I paid to what they're charging. And this isn't a sales pitch here. Yeah. It's less than half. Here's a budget panel that I put together that's $102.
What are the markers?
If you can't spend that, C-reactive protein, your metabolic panel, your comprehensive metabolic panel, which has a host of studies in there, testosterone free and total, prostate-specific antigen, a urinalysis, a CBC with differential and platelets, HA1C, iron, a full iron panel, a lipid panel with LDL-HDL ratios, thyroid stimulating hormone, insulin, ferritin, estrogen. All of that is included. It's a reasonably comprehensive profile. I did not put vitamin D on there. I put it down here under also recommended.
Okay.
That was just kind of because I kind of recommend 4,000 IUs of vitamin D to everybody anyhow, and it satisfies it, I think. But I have some others I mentioned down here if you have particular concerns with the initial test, like if your LDLs are through the roof, then maybe throw in an ApoB test. If you've got gout or high blood pressure, throw in a uric acid test. If you've got erectile dysfunction, throw in a prolactin test, particularly if you're on performance-enhancing drugs, and then a more comprehensive thyroid panel if you see something there. But $102.33 at Marek Health for a reasonably comprehensive profile that I'd like to see if somebody contacted me.
Did that have AST and ALT?
It is. That's part of it.
So that's in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for $100. That's covering almost everything.
It's covering a lot. Yeah, that's for sure. So I just wanted to throw that out there that folks can do that with Marek Health. So that kind of breaks down. What I'm saying is there's no excuse.
No, there's not. I've been saying that forever.
Check your blood
really
pressure.
Not.
In my book, I have a high blood pressure quick fix kit, which is extraordinarily effective. It goes down all of the most important things that can reduce your blood pressure significantly. Obviously, weight loss, but a lot of powerlifters aren't interested in losing weight. I've had a lot of powerlifters who I did not ask them to lose weight because they had a pending competition, but they had elevated blood pressure. I was still able to bring that down. Lane Johnson weighed 312 when I got with him, and his blood pressure, his systolic blood pressure, was in the 150s. I got him up to 333. His blood pressure was in the 120s. Sleep apnea is a big one. Hypothyroidism was a big one. Getting sufficient micronutrients such as potassium and magnesium and calcium were pretty big for that. And then the 10-minute walks after meals brings down postprandial glycemia, which is a big contributor to blood pressure anyhow, is just hyperinsulinemia. So those were the big ones, the big rocks that allowed him to gain weight and improve his cardiometabolic markers. So that's a big piece of it. So we did the sleep, we do a blood test, and then I just kind of mentioned some of the keys for hydration. And this is whether it's an athlete or whether it's a dad bod or soccer mom. I'm looking at about a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass or goal weight, about 30% of total calories. Recent study just came out that compared the Mediterranean diet to a high protein diet, which I don't classify 30% of your daily calories as high protein, and showed that the high protein diet actually performed better in terms of blood sugar control, what they deem to be, and which is kind of the primary or the largest, has the largest hazard ratio in terms of contributing to cardiovascular disease and just all-cause mortality in general. If you were to put a list together and put it in order of a hierarchy of worst to least worst, your LDL markers are way down here at about a 1.4 up to maybe 3 in terms of the hazard ratio. Your type 2 diabetes, you're looking at 10 to 15 in terms of hazard ratios, in terms of the likelihood, the percentage of people who will have some sort of cardiovascular disease or metabolic issue. And then you're talking obesity, high blood pressure, as you go down the list. But that's the big one, is blood sugars. So 30% protein in your diet has an extraordinary effect on mitigating type 2 diabetes. And then I talk about post-meal, doing the 10-minute walks, twice as effective as metformin for controlling postprandial glycemia, again, a type 2 diabetes reversal or prevention marker. And metformin is the number one prescribed medication in the world for type 2 diabetes, which we just saw a recent study come out that showed that long-term mortality benefits were no different using metformin. That was the presumption because it has some benefit in terms of...
Their studies are all over the place. So there's studies coming out
there's a lot.
It increases longevity. So it's just... It's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
But it's still, if you don't need it, that's the goal.
Yeah, if you're using it for longevity, there is, as a bodybuilder, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that it impairs hypertrophy outcomes.
Yes.
Sometimes people think, I just had somebody recently ask me about anti-inflammatories. I think they were talking about curcumin or turmeric. The studies on that aren't conclusive, and there's not a lot of evidence that it's even necessary if you don't have inflammation. Again, that's why we do the blood test. If you don't have an elevated homocysteine or C-reactive protein, why are you taking anti-inflammatories? And can they actually impair the acute inflammatory response that's necessary for hormesis for you to actually recover from the workouts?
It's another reason for the blood work.
Another reason for the blood work.
There's some things you don't need.
Stan, what should I take? What are you deficient in? What's your current health status? So talk about sleep. Again, the primary is protein intake. The diet in general, I try and get a diverse range of proteins that are highly bioavailable and micronutrient dense, okay? And by that I mean something that historically would be eliminated by the guru diet or your typical nutritionist diet for the bodybuilding figure, physique, bikini wellness, mankini. Those diets are so unbelievably restrictive, and I've been dealing with this since the late 80s and trying to talk out about it. because I saw how much damage they did, both to me personally, trying to over-restrictively diet, or even on the other end of the spectrum to dirty bulk, a gallon of milk a day, and the cheese pizzas and the ice cream. I experienced metabolic syndrome, and on the other end, I experienced a significant amount of muscle loss preparing for powerlifting. I've gained and lost over the course of my competitive career well over 1,000 pounds, albeit intentionally to meet my goals at the time. But I experienced all these problems, and just from happenstance or from trial and error, I've come across what, we said today that we're not gurus, we didn't invent this, what Vince Gironda was talking about in the 60s, steak and eggs. There's a reason for that. And he was also talking about getting iodine. I think he was using
sea kelp.
Sea kelp, yeah. I recommend for compliance either iodized salt or cranberry juice, because you sweat out iodine and it's important for thyroid function. But those over-restrictive diets would be, they always, and this happens today. You go to a nutritionist about your bodybuilding prep, and they're like, okay, eliminate red meat, eliminate dairy, eliminate fruit, eliminate salt. I mean, it's right out of the gate. And the diets look the same. It's egg whites, tilapia, some boneless, skinless chicken breast, and all the broccoli you can possibly stuff in your mouth for fiber and what have you. That's incredibly restrictive. And what we see is, particularly in women, because they eat fewer calories than men, we see the female triad. We see chronic calorie restriction resulting in anemia. We see low calcium as a part of that. And we see amenorrhea, a cessation of the menstrual period. These are three things that we commonly see, and I saw it in athletes at the University of Oregon. Way back in the early 90s, I was training runners, both sprinters and distance runners. And the women in particular, and I think this came up recently in Nike. They are actually sanctioned that they couldn't give diets to their athletes, because up at Nike, they had a female runner, I think, just within the last couple of years, came out and said that because of the chronic dieting, she ended up suffering from the female triad and had osteoporosis as a result. Her menstrual period stopped, obviously. She started having shin splints. And I saw that in the early 90s. I thought the women would actually wear braces and go out and run on their shins to do that. So I started seeing this in the bodybuilding industry, physique, figure, bikini, et cetera. One of the more prominent or prevalent symptoms of this restrictive diet, the egg whites lack biotin, the Avidin robs biotin from the body because you're not eating the yolk, and so now that's for your skin, hair, and nails. The chronic restriction, of course, has a massive effect on the thyroid, and so now that dry skin, hair, and nails starts falling out. You get these women with patches of hair falling out as they prep for competitions. The anemia, avoid red meat. Well, where do you think the iron is? And you got a woman who's menstruating, eating egg whites and tilapia and whey shakes, which, as an aside, has anybody ever been backstage at a bodybuilding bikini show? The stink back there is horrendous. Can you imagine egg whites, protein powders, and broccoli? Can you imagine what that smells like back there? It's unnecessary. It's over-restrictive. It's caused a host of acute and chronic conditions that even after the show, they end up at the hospital or the doctor's office getting shots for iron and B12 and antidepressants for that matter, suffering from massive edema to the point where it's quite dangerous. The swelling of the ankles and the water retention, an extraordinary amount of immediate fat regain. It happens much faster than the muscle rebounds. So they end up actually with a worse metabolism than prior to starting diet, heavier with a slower basal metabolic rate. So I've seen this happen chronically since as far back as the late 80s and early 90s. And so the vertical diet was intended to say, look, this is a better pathway. Include red meat, include whole eggs for these micronutrients. That's your body needs. You'll perform better. You'll stay stronger longer. You'll feel better and not accumulate these chronic conditions, hopefully at all, and not have the rebound from competition. And I prepared Nadia Wyatt for the Miss Olympia 2 years in a row. She took third place. She was completely shredded. She ate steak and fruit and potatoes every single day, sent me a picture of every meal, was still squatting 2 1/4 for reps right up till a week before the show, which she loves to do. She loves to lift heavy weights. Her cardio preparing for that show was 3 10-minute walks a day after meals. That was it. She didn't put 2 hours in on the treadmill, and she was shredded. She was the hardest woman on stage. You acquire that mostly through diet, but you retain your lean body mass through resistance training, as we talked about earlier, not lightening the weights and increasing the reps, but maintaining a really intense, heavy, and that doesn't mean you can't do 10, 12 repetitions, but it's still heavy. As your strength declines in the gym, you have to assume that your muscle mass is also declining. And so that should be one of your primary goals, particularly for that industry. And so she did 2 a day weight training instead of doing all that excessive cardio. So I touched on a lot of stuff that's probably the top 5 or 6 things that I recommend in the diet when I get a client.
What I would throw back out there, just out of curiosity's sake, is assuming that they're not supplementing anything, and I'm sure that they are, just regular supplements.
Yeah.
And with that restrictive diet, when you also see a deficiency in electrolytes because they're pulling the salt.
Yeah, that's why I
no
keep the salt and the
right?
potassium in there. Yeah,
as well as ADE and K.
Yeah, 100%.
The fat's being pulled.
Yeah, you shouldn't get your fats. That's why I like a top sirloin steak. It's still got.
No, I'm talking the tilapia, the rice,
right,
the old school
and the egg
stuff.
yolk.
Yes.
Here's what the gurus will tell you is that eat egg whites, but throw a dollop of peanut butter in there for your fat.
Exactly.
That doesn't replace an egg yolk.
Yes.
Not only is it not a good protein source, deficient in leucine, not a complete protein, polyunsaturated fats, but it doesn't have the biotin and the choline and all the other micronutrients that are in the whole egg. But you're right. I do initially, I'll bring fats down. Like I might start with a New York steak, and then a month later I might go to a top sirloin. Then a month later I might get to a sirloin tip or a top round or a grass-fed steak to bring the fats down. But I don't like to see them below 20% of total calories. It's unnecessary. That's the point at which I might start reducing carbohydrates. I love to keep carbs in for performance. As to fuel those anaerobic workouts, I prefer to keep 50% carbs in, and I'll only start to bring them down that last month or so as necessary, just to get that last few pounds of body fat off.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of D has become more and more prevalent, especially since this thing that we've been living through the last
100%.
couple of years. It's coming through the roof, where in my mind processing, I'm no expert in this, if you're supplementing D, but you have no fat in your diet, it's not going to do a whole hell of a lot.
That's true of AD, E, and K all together.
Yeah, exactly. You're just throwing it away to where the reason I bring this up is I had a friend of mine that was supplement was on a super low fat diet and it wouldn't go up. And I'm like, if you keep doing it, take a tablespoon of peanut butter when you take the D.
Right.
You need some fats to be able to get there.
100%.
And it went straight up. And he's like, holy shit. I'm like, we're not talking about, you see what I'm saying? You can't just pull a macronutrient completely out of your diet and assume that there's not going to be any ramifications.
Yeah. Same is true of omega-3s. I do salmon twice a week, about 5-ounce serving. That's sufficient to get the amount of omega-3 that I think most research has suggested is healthy. And some people will talk about eating, say, a grass-finished steak instead of a grain-finished steak to get more omega-3s. It's not a meaningful dose. Salmon has 200 times the omega-3s as steak, whether it's grass or grain-fed. It's just pixie dusting at that point. It's not meaningful. It doesn't provide you any benefit. Same thing would be true of, say, a pink salt. People talk about all the minerals in there. They're not of significant enough quantity to give you any meaningful benefit, and it's absent iodine. So if it tastes great for you, eat it, but you're going to need an iodine source, and don't count on that for things like magnesium and your other micronutrients that you're going to want to get. Magnesium's another one hard to get from food. I usually supplement that. Yeah.
So one of the things that you can, I don't know if it's as prevalent as it used to be. There used to be people that would think that in order to be healthy, you can't be at peak performance, right? Performance and health are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? This kind of spits in the face of that just a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's not as restrictive. And I mentioned, I did the video, if you want to be healthy, don't compete.
Yeah.
Okay. And I said there's a difference between fitness and health. The fitness level required to be a world's strongest man, probably not healthy. To be a UFC champion, Probably not healthy.
None of it is.
To be a 14-year-old gymnast in the Olympics, tearing Achilles tendons and having carpal tunnel syndrome surgically repaired. To be a 10-year-old badminton player in China, blowing out their lateral ligament from repetitive strain. None of those things are healthy, but it's the fitness level required to achieve that goal. And I mentioned earlier that we make certain sacrifices for this to achieve our goals. I think what was I don't know if it was a study, but somebody talked about questioning Olympic athletes if they wanted to get a gold medal, would they be willing to take a particular drug that would cause some significant health issues or maybe even cause them to die in 5 years. A lot of them would take it. You know, that's their only goal. So I really try and mitigate damage. I don't expect you know to be able to solve the problem of the fitness required to be a champion. I think I listened to a video last night about one of the most prominent conditioning coaches for Tour de France athletes, and said now that the drug testing is the way it is, it's so much more comprehensive that none of these guys could compete with the guys from the 90s and 2000s, the Lance Armstrong group and prior. They just couldn't. All the EPO those guys were having and their blood thickness in the 60s, having to get up in the middle of the night to drink water so that their blood doesn't turn into gel. You know, and those are some of the things I'm talking about with respect to getting a blood test and looking at your RBCs and hemoglobin and hematocrit. That's what's killing some of these big athletes between blood pressure and thick blood. And there's interventions that you can implement. First, having knowledge of the fact that it exists.
That's the biggest
and
one.
With the blood test and just getting a blood pressure cuff. And then having an action plan, which I provide in the book, for high blood pressure, high blood sugar, quick fix kit for controlling lipids, thick blood, whether it's donating, you know, whatever you need to do to mitigate that damage. So it's not healthy to compete. You mentioned performance-enhancing drugs. I was talking about women. This is one of the reasons why I've been so vocal as of late, because back when these bikini girls or bodybuilders back then were competing in the late 80s and early 90s, they were using a lot of the same things they're using today. They'll use Anavar to prevent the sarcopenia, the muscle tissue loss. They'll use thyroid to mitigate the obvious hypothyroidism that was causing the hair loss. They'll take clenbuterol or any other central nervous system stimulator to increase their metabolism, which is obviously slowed from all the stuff. The soccer moms aren't using that arsenal of things, and so they are losing the muscle, and they are losing the hair, and they aren't getting the same results. And they aren't aware that's what's going on behind the scenes, and so they're suffering from all the downsides without any of the the arsenal that helps them to achieve what they think is the optimal physique that they're achieving. So that's kind of who I'm talking to here. Less so the people in the fitness industry, although that's exploded to the point now there's more people participating in bodybuilding, figure physique, bikini wellness. Than there ever has been in the past. But it's the general population is now seeing them on social media and is trying to emulate their diet and training programs without understanding the downsides and the medical interventions that they're utilizing to achieve those.
I think the conversation is still good for those that are competing because, yes, it's mitigating, right? Yeah. But you've come out the other end, I've come out the other end. So we both know people that have come out the other end. Some do very well. Some never train again. Some just get super fat as fuck. But I wonder, had they been exposed to the health implications they were sacrificing beforehand, then when they leave, in the first couple years after when they really leave, I mean, everybody leaves, but doesn't really know they've left, for a while. And when they get there, then they're going to know where to look. They're going to say, okay, look, there's the damage that was potentially created here. These are the scans I need. So, because a lot of the ones that come out the other end that just don't quit, right? They're not still competing, but they're still PEDs. They're still not at the same dose. Some. I mean, we know the idiots, right? Yeah. But most they just lower everything.
Right.
Right. So they downsize, whatever you want to call it. That downsizing is still coming with most of them that I've known with the same risk as when they were still competing.
Yeah.
Because they never learned how to mitigate it.
Yeah.
And now when they're
older.
Yes, they're older, right?
Yeah.
So now it's easier in a way for them to mitigate it. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
because you get what I'm saying?
100%. That's why Matt had talked about his employees competing and getting injured and recovering from that. As like I said, I learned strictly from trial and error. I did a lot of dumb things. I dieted for shows on egg whites and tilapia and 2 hours of cardio a day. I did that. I dirty bulked. I saw what it did to my blood markers and metabolic syndrome and high blood pressure and blood sugars and kidney, liver enzymes. I saw all that. It scared me. And so I said, I need to do something different here. And hence all of the things we just discussed that I did for myself and do for my clients. It's like, that's a problem. We can't ignore that.
Yes.
But like we said, if you don't know or you aren't willing to at least admit to yourself and identify it through some testing.
Well, age changes things too. I mean, when you're 20, you can blast everything and your blood markers are just, not everybody, but your blood markers like, fuck yeah. You're like, what the hell, dude? You're taking 10 grams of shit.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. Like in your 30s, it changes. In your 40s, it changes. Then it starts changing. And some of these guys, women as well, be in their 50s and be like, well, man, when I was 20, I was taking 5 grams of test. Man, I need to load it up. Like, Hey, now, that don't work like that.
That's hard. We talked about the way I train now as opposed to the way I used to train, and it's also the same outside the gym. It's the same with what you refer to these days as HRT or HRT plus. Depending on whether it's summer or what have you.
But recovery's big, man. I mean, the older you get, the more important recovery comes. When you're in your 20s, you can go out and drink and go in and hit max effort squats, be no big deal.
100%. And eat McDonald's when you're in your 20s.
Exactly. You get away with a lot. And then you try to carry it over into your 30s. That's why I think the longer somebody does it with the experience, those are the people I want to listen to because they got away with a lot of stuff in their 20s. In the 30s, they still kind of got away with it. In their 40s, they realized, oh shit, I need to get to bed. I need to quit this drinking shit. I got to really, really focus on the recovery. And then they can, would that benefit the 20-year-old? Be honest, I don't know. I really, because they're going to recover anyhow. Is it going to make them recover better? Who knows? What, is there over optimal recovery? I don't know. But I don't think that's really who we're talking about. But I think even that 20-year-old here in the conversation, if they keep doing it and they get to their 30s, then when they start thinking, you know what, maybe I'm done. Maybe you're not done. Maybe now you need to start looking at the sleep and the recovery.
And I get it. The 20-year-old me wouldn't listen to the 54-year-old me, And so I could say it till I'm blue in the face. If I knew then what I know now,
I wouldn't have done it.
I wouldn't have made so many. Yeah, that's true too. I certainly don't want my son to bodybuild or powerlift, but you're going to be smart. You're going to do things with your brain. But I think I would have been better sooner.
Yes.
Because I learned most of my lessons.
Had you listened?
And had to come back when I was 38, 39, 40, and early 40s. With
the story I like to tell about this is I distinctly remember having breakfast with people when I'm in my 20s at powerlifting meet or whatever, and there's the 40-year-old fucking dude that, it's giving me the advice, eating that fucking eggs and shit. I'm like, just shut up, dude. You don't know what I'm going to fucking kick your ass. You suck. I'm going to beat you. They're trying to help, man, but it's... I realize now I'm that dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, fuck. Now that I'm that dude, I know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I know what they're thinking. How can I do this better?
Yeah.
I
try, and like I've worked with Larry Wheels when he was 19, 20, 21. I flew him out to Vegas and he lived out there for months and got a chance to work with him. Probably part of the reason you asked me initially what are Stan's goals. I talked about staying jacked for my daughter to get through college or high school, not college. She's on her own in college. But part of it is nobody would fucking listen to me if I was just sitting in front of my swimming pool eating bonbons talking about what I used to do and wearing my T-shirt that says "Google me, bitch," right? I have to maintain at least some respectable level and do it without limping around all the time, so that I can at least get them to listen. And I think that's important. And a lot of really smart folks, PhDs, Lane Norton said the same thing. Nobody listens to him. He doesn't have a six-pack. They call him fat. Pat Davidson, extraordinary mind, PhD in exercise phys. I just went down to Miami for his seminar a few weeks ago. He said the same thing. Yeah, he had to lose weight and get a six-pack so people would just listen to him. Dude's smart as hell. He's got a PhD. You know, he knows what he's talking about, but nobody listened to him because he was chubby. You know, so I'm stuck in the same thing. I'd like to put my feet up for a little while and you know, not train as hard maybe every now and then. Although I got to say, I had kind of sort of done that a little bit. And then, I don't know, it was 5-6 years ago, I went down to Venice and I trained with Mike O'Hearn. And he kicked my ass all over the gym. It was embarrassing. And I went home and realized that I wasn't done yet. I got to hang in there. So some things can be motivating. Some things can be discouraging, you know.
Yeah. I'll bring your ego back up just a little bit because you're feeling bad because Mike O'Hearn busted your ass. When I was talking to Mark last night, I'm like, give me a story that I can throw out to Stan. That he's like, well, we were squatting together one time. And it was a safety bar box squat workout. Mark was about 320. You're about 270, and you're kicking his ass all the time. And he's like, he got this feeling because your warm up says, didn't look too good. Like, today's the day. I'm going to be able to get him. You know, so, and Mark's telling me, he's like, man, I was putting my briefs on. He said, I would put my suit on.
Yeah, you had powerlifting briefs.
I was going to do whatever I had to do, but I was going to get his ass. And we kept working up and said the way. Yeah,
he threw bands on. And
there's bands.
I forgot about
bands in a box.
Yeah, I had never used bands before.
Yeah, so he said what I had him do is I had him do
me all over the place.
Yeah, he said I had him do the safety squat bar, which he'd never done before.
Right.
I had him box squat, which he'd never done before. I had him do bands, which he's never done before. I was 320, which was good for me.
Wearing canvas briefs.
Yeah, I was wearing briefs. So he said I set the stage so there was no way I could lose. And then you're working up, and I think the weight was like 495
and I was all over the place. The thing was whipping me around everywhere. I just stand up with it, and I was all over the place.
He just looked terrible that he did this one. It came up really slow. Then Mark said that he did one. He's like, okay, this is good. And then you got underneath there. You took a little extra time getting set up under the bar. Changed his feet just a little bit. Sat down, and then just come up like this. And then you looked at Mark, and you said, I figured it out now.
I think I got it.
And Mark just said, I was deflated. He said he smacked my ass the rest of the day because you didn't know what to do. You didn't know where the bands were to stand, where to put the bar. And I was cracking up.
That's a neat thing about bodybuilding. You do so many different, such a variety of exercises from such a number of different angles that you learn pretty quick. It was a good, easy learning curve. But I'll tell you, on the opposite end of that, I've never used suits. So I put on a bench shirt and didn't get anything out of it. I put on a single ply squat suit. I didn't get anything out of it. So, you got to live in those different worlds. We talked about strength being specific, but all those leverages and things, you got to practice your sport.
I think I want to see that. We need to get him in a suit. That would be some shit. I think one of the overarching tenets of the episode today is obviously nutrition, sleep, like all the little things they don't add up, they multiply. And when it comes to performance, 100%. When it comes to being the best you can be in your sport and whatever it is. But also another thing I think we should harp in on a little bit is you're not saying don't train hard, right? You're saying the complete opposite of that. It's like you need to set all the other things in motion so you can bust your ass in the gym. Yeah. I mean, we have some footage of you hitting that hack squat, and it's like, first and foremost, you can hit those fucking high notes when it starts getting heavy.
I've never been a quiet lifter.
No, and it's very real. And you can just, you're getting after it, but you're lifting hard. Like you're training hard. It just because you're the vertical diet guy, and it's like, oh yeah, eat your beef and rice and go for walks and shit. Like it's not. He's not saying like don't fucking bust your ass in the gym, right? You
said it. Training.
Yeah.
We're not exercising. We're training. Eddie Cohn said it in his book, The Man, the Myth, the Method. He said that you don't go to the gym. There's only one reason to go to the gym. It's to get better. Yeah. And somehow, some way, and like I said with Matt's board, there's many different ways to set PRs at the gym, whether it's reps or sets or rest periods or weight. There's many different ways to progress. We always go into the gym with the idea of setting a PR. We design our whole workout around, and today we did a PR on that machine. And I asked you too, I said, who lifted the most? We talked about earlier. And then you said that Juji did it. And I'm like, what did Juji get? Real competitive that way. When Juji came out to train with me, I took him out to the stairs to run stairs because I knew he hadn't probably done that. that, and I had some practice, and there's timing that's involved in that, so you're not tripping all over the place. And he got me like by an inch, but he was shocked because I'm an old man. Usually he's a young athletic guy, and at the very top he's like, so it was fun. But everything is a competition, and everything's about progression. And, even at my age, people are like, oh, Stan, it's unhealthy and you're going to, ruin your back like Ronnie Coleman. And I'm like, let me just say that Ronnie Coleman didn't hurt his back lifting. Ronnie Coleman's fucked up because he got a bad advice from a
terrible surgeon. I'm glad you said that.
100%. Yeah, same thing happened to Flex Wheeler. He had drop foot when a surgeon got in there and started fucking around with his back.
I wish more people would look at the history of what actually happened with all that. Yes, indeed.
Weightlifting is one of the least injurious sporting choices you can make.
I could be wrong, but didn't the first cage that they put in him, didn't it only last like 8 hours?
Yeah, I'm not
and then the screws broke. I mean, anyhow, keep going.
Even a PhD.
And he kept fucking going. He kept going back to the same guy.
Yeah, that's the problem. So
anyhow, let's move on. Okay.
Yeah. Surgery. So anyhow, a lot of people ask me about that. And look, bone mineral density is improved from weightlifting. Joint stability, integrity, thickness even of your meniscus. And your tendons and your ligaments all improve. It's a hormetic effect if properly programmed over time. Your body's not degenerative, it's regenerative. And you just have to give it the right stimulus, again, progressively over time. And repetitive strain can be just as bad as overloading, with a heavy single. And so you have to be cautious about those things. I've certainly done it to myself, both many times over my career, and just a little smarter now. But I'm not, willing to suggest that you shouldn't go in and still train to within, somewhere near your current maximum capability, because over time it's really the rate at which, as I age from my 50s and my 60s and my 70s, the guys I see in the gym in their 70s who are still lifting are standing straight up and down and have a firm handshake. The ones that I don't see training, that are sitting at home and accumulated a gut, they're all bent over and kind of, decrepit at this point and walking sort of funny. The rate at which you decline can be slowed. And that's kind of, I hope I haven't crested that peak yet, but that is a concern of mine. I think Dr. Peter Attia probably most popularly talks a lot about that now, is that he's looking at the centenarian Olympics and for how many years can he put a bag in an overhead compartment, and can he, get up and move and have stability and strength? Because we know that all-cause mortality is directly linked to strength, handshake, grip strength. We talk about that, and we talk about probably the leading indicator is your VO2 max. But your VO2 max is dependent upon your muscle mass, because that's what draws the oxygen. And so really that's the foundation. If you ask me to choose between cardio and weightlifting, again, weightlifting is cardio and provides all of those other metabolic benefits.
Well, bone density as well.
Bone mineral density. Consuming calcium does not do a lot for bone mineral density. Consuming calcium and protein and sufficient magnesium is required, but also a loading component. I don't care how much protein and calcium you feed an astronaut, they're going to have osteoporosis, they're going to have bone mineral density loss because they don't have any loading component. That's why they specifically send them up there with bands or whatever apparatus they use to try and load. And even then, because it's inadequate stimulus, they realize a significant amount of bone loss. And so those are all the things that I consider as I age, and the reasons why people are like, oh, this isn't going to end well, and your knees, and you're going to be Ronnie Coleman. And I'm just like, you do you. I'll do me. I think I have a better plan in place.
It's interesting about Stan. I say we talk about authenticity. I remember one time, one thing I like about Louis is he's always authentic. Like when he tells people drag a sled, or he drags a sled 3 times a week, or does reverse hypers before and after he does, right? So whether you agree with how Louis trains or not, he's authentic. He's not telling you to do something he would never do. I basically lived with Stan last 8 months. I'm telling you, he walks after every meal. He doesn't deviate from his diet. It's not a sales pitch. It's really real. He's as authentic as anybody I've ever met. And it works. And I think, like you said earlier, I always say this, the test of time is the most You know, you can be a flash in the pan. That could be your genetics, but you can't sell me your genetics. No. But you can sell longevity.
Yes.
Yeah. I had dinner with my wife the other night, and I just leaned back. We were just kind of having a candid conversation. I said, look, I'm not tired. I'm not bored. I'm not done. I'm not going to power lift anymore competitively, but I just feel like the world is still my oyster. There's so many more opportunities after everything that I've done thus far in my life. And those people who know my career, both inside the gym and outside the gym, financially and business and everything else, you know, now having kids and looking forward, there's so many more chapters to be written, and I feel as though I could do anything. You know, I don't feel tired or old or anything at 54 any more so than I did at 30. So I think that's kind of the most important thing about having these habits, like Matt said, the little 10-minute walks and the paying attention to getting sufficient sleep and consistently eating, you know, I hate to use the word healthy, and I hate having these good food, bad food conversations, but just, you know, maintaining good blood markers like we discussed today, and blood pressure and lipids and blood sugars. All of those things are kind of the foundation for anything I want to do, not just a great squat day. That's the most exciting thing to me at this moment in my life. But I'm able to do anything I want. And so, you know, I think that's probably the most rewarding part of working with people now and sending the message that I send, is because a lot of folks get pretty tired in their late 40s and early 50s, and they're kind of looking for answers. And a lot of times people are trying to give them quick fixes, or, you know, a pill or potion or powder. And it's like, no, it's never any one thing. It's a combination of things. It's you know, the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, and it's consistently. And the consistency component, the important thing about it, and I've always said compliance is the science, is that it has to be simple, sensible, and sustainable. It can't be, I got to go to the gym and do an hour and a half of treadmill or something like that, because who's got time for that? You know, the barriers to entry are too high. The enjoyability, the you know, the likelihood that you'll do that for any period of time are pretty slim. And so I try and design things that fit within somebody's existing schedule, and that they enjoy, because once your brain considers this to be something unenjoyable, the likelihood that you're going to do it for an extended period of time goes way down. Willpower is not a good method to accomplish anything. You got to find a way.
That's like motivation. It comes and goes.
Yeah, I mean, what are the big reasons, if I can remember, what are the big reasons why people don't accomplish things? Probably number one, procrastination is probably the biggest reason. Another one would be fear of rejection. Would be a big one, and something I call 3-minute motivation, which it seems like every day now more than ever. You get a little Joe Rogan speech, you know, you name the motivational person, and they're like, yeah, and you're like, yeah, rah. It's bumper sticker to you know, to motivational speech, but it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, and I think people get addicted to motivation after a while. And they love looking at the videos, but what's your action plan? You know, a goal without a plan is just a dream. And so what's your action plan? Did you break that down into steps that you can consistently achieve? And you have to enjoy the process, because like we mentioned earlier, there's no finish line. It's not like once I get there, I'm done. You have to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, there's no way you're gonna stick with it for the long term.
Well, it's a good lesson even in building your career, because John reaches out to Stan on a phone call. So what would most people do? I'll send you a diet, or I'll send you my. Stan says, when you training next? And John's like, I think we train Thursday. Stan's like, all right, I'm on my way. I'll be there Thursday. Stan shows up with meals. He's ready. He took action.
Yeah.
Nobody asked you to
go. I was all over his ass. I'm like, come on, John, let's go. 2 minutes, let's go. What are you sitting down? There's no seats in the octagon. Let's go. And that's kind of what started the whole thing moving. Is that people want to be led. They want to be helped.
And I think too, with
motivated.
You know, the problem now with social media is great for some things, but I sound like old. But in our day, or in the old days, you had to earn your platform. So like if you wanted to have a voice, you had to do something. Like if you wanted a poster on your wall, be a pro athlete. Or now everybody's got the platform without the work. and everybody loves to be, it's like sometimes life's tough and you got to persevere. It's like, why don't you get out of your parents' basement?
Yeah.
Like, stop posting. I don't want to get my advice from you.
What have you overcome? Help me understand it.
Yeah.
I got a degree in psychology at the University of Oregon, and I went to my counselor, my professor, and I said, look, I want to get an MSW, a master's in social work. I want to help people with drug addiction. My mom was an addict all my life. I've talked about the story before as an alcoholic growing up, and addicted to painkillers and ultimately psychiatric medications that landed her in and out of mental institutions for the later years of her life, and ultimately died of an overdose of fentanyl, of all things, in her 70s. So, but even from that young age in college, I kind of wanted to help based on my mom's experience. And she said, Stan, have you ever been addicted to anything? End of conversation. She's like, there's something else you like to do? I said, yeah, I love to lift weights. And she goes, go to the exercise science program. So I spent 2 more years dissecting cadavers and anatomy and physics and kinese and chemistry and all that stuff. And that's how I made my career. Again, early in my life, difficult to do, had to find a number of other ways to make money. But, now I'm doing something that I love. But, that's important. You absolutely have to, do something that you love to be effective at it.
The other thing, too, is, I think in my career, and it's not some great career, but I never did, I always just, I want to say this, like I met Louis Simmons with Joe Collins. Remember Joe? Mm-hmm. So Joe says, I'm going to go meet Louis Simmons. You want to go? I never met Louis. Louis up there, he's put you on 10,000 exercises, says how to help you. He's like, why don't you start coming up? So I did. But I didn't have an expectation. I just wanted to get better. And that's how I met Buddy Morris. When Buddy's at Pittsburgh, he's going through GA positions. He's like, look at all these GA applications. Nobody talks about Louis Simmons. Joe Collins is there. It says, I know a guy, he'll leave right now. He trains with Louis Simmons. You can't wait for the opportunity to get ready. You have to be working towards it. Mm-hmm. Like, so when Stan had me come out to meet John, the first day he goes, you love this shit, don't you? He's like, you're nuts. But I do. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't fly me out and say, hey, do you want to train John Jones? And it's like, oh, let me get serious about lifting real quick. It's like, it's too late. Right. So you're making your opportunities. I always come back to authenticity. No one ever had to tell you to lift. Mm-hmm. Like, you were serious. When you come from Toledo to lift with Louis, and then you lift in the dungeons and get a job based around, the West Side.
That's all I ever wanted to do, was lift fucking weights.
So for you to have all this, it wasn't like somebody said, hey, Dave, we'll give you this great business, get into lifting. And you're like, oh, I'll do it.
No, it's quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
My entire life, people were telling me not to do this.
Right, yeah.
To do everything else. I mean, even when I was younger, training for wrestling, like, hey, you don't want to do that, you need to do this. I'm like, I like to do this. If I'm stronger than everybody else, I got to be better than everybody else. And then just, I don't rehash my whole life story, but going into college, just like, I want to do it. No, you don't want to do that. You can't make money doing that. You find something else. And college professors, even taking the exercise science stuff, it was, you got to do something else. You got to do something else. My whole life, I've been told to do the complete opposite of what I've done my whole entire fucking life. Yeah. So it's to the contrary to all of them, fuck off. It's, I work that way. I work in resistance, I suppose, where you tell me to do something, I'm going to tell you to fuck off. I'm going to find another way. That's right. Especially if there's no credibility.
Isn't that what powerlifting's all about?
But what's funny is think of all the coaches that come here and ask you for advice. Mm-hmm. You can't say like, hey, the strength coach from Clemson wants to come out. Well, hold on, let me get into strength training. It's too late.
No, it's too late. No, that's too late.
And it's so they do it. You were going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. Somebody was like, do you still lift? Because I don't lift. I'm like, I lift every day, but it's just I never posted it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was never about that for me. I just really wanted to get stronger and get better and see if I could get help. I got the overspeed treadmill. He thought it was nuts. I said, we're going to buy, I had to have it made. It's like a $30,000 treadmill. Mm-hmm. Guy's like, Jason's going, what are you doing? I said, I think it'll work.
Yeah, we shipped one out to Albuquerque and put John in it within 4 weeks. I mean, he went from 18 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour on that thing, and his coaches at the gym were like, what the hell are you doing? He's up under people
like
on takedowns. Like a rocket. They couldn't sprawl on him. It was crazy.
Yeah. But I never did it really with a money purpose. I just said, this can get guys faster. Yeah.
You knew it worked. And that's because you tried it first. came back and you were kicking everybody's ass on the track.
That's right. Years ago, as a kid.
And we know it works. I mean, the research shows that it works. Matt Davidson talks highly about it. Dr. Andy Galpin, overspeed training is extremely effective. It's just kind of hard to find a way to do it because either you're dragging people, which now you still have eccentric loading from decelerating, but that machine provides us almost all concentric sprinting with hips forward. And you can adjust the height. It's less, again, stimulus fatigue ratio. It's been fantastic.
And it's kind of a little off topic, coming full circle. All these trainers, I see this now, like Dave said, like 3 spots left. Or Stan, I see all these ads. It's like, be an online trainer. I make $100,000 a year, and he's on a golf course or a boat. And remember the one guy had like all these pictures. He's
Ferrari.
like, yeah. And I always say to people when they say, "Well, I want to do online," I say, "That's great." And I tell this to my trainers heard this last week. I say, you're special, but not for why you think you're special.
Yeah.
Because if you want to go online, now maybe you compete against Josh Bryant or Stan. You don't know more than Stan. So it's not your magic program. It's that they can see you 3-4 days a week. You can talk to them. It's that you have more influence that way. But everybody kind of wants to skip the step. I bet everybody would love to be Dave Tate right now. Come in on Elite. I mean, this warehouse is paradise, right? Everybody knows who you are. You have your own podcast. They don't want to do what you did. And what nobody talks about, like with our gyms, there was no proof of concept. Like our gym is unique. Now there's a lot of them. When I started out, I just was like, I need to make money and I don't want to leave the fitness industry. I want to be able to train.
Yeah, but there's a couple things that came to my mind as you were speaking there is, say everybody wants to be me or say they want to be Stan, I get it, right? I get where that's coming from, but some of that kind of comes back on whoever is that person, Stan, myself, other people, to share the adversities that came with it.
Sure.
Because what people see most of the time is, look, here's this fantasy. It's like, do you have any idea how many fucking times I've been sued? There's a lot that doesn't get discussed, right?
For sure.
Because it's not good marketing to discuss it. It may be good authenticity, but if that's all you talk about, well, then you're just the angry asshole that I can be sometimes.
Yeah.
That you just end up being, but that gets lost. So what people see when they're aspiring to be this person is the 10, 20% that looks good. They're not seeing the 80%, call it grind, call it adversity, I call it the process of just what it is. We've just assumed this you have to do this to get the 20%.
Yeah.
But this that nobody ever sees is the real work, right? So when I hear people say things like, as you said a little bit earlier, you got to really love what you do, my mind goes, but I don't love this other 80%. I don't. That's just the grind shit that I have to do, that I'm unmotivated to do, but I still have to do it. It has to be done, where people become desensitized to the work it actually takes to get that 20%. Same thing with training, right? Everybody wants to see the max effort lift, the last lift, the screaming lift, the grind set. They don't want to see the 965,000 reps that just were boring as all fuck that you didn't even want to do. I'm saying, like, you go in the gym, you really want to do your warm up? No, you're doing that so you can do that last set, balls to the wall. You get what I'm saying?
100%.
So that's kind of that part unpacked. The other part with social media and the internet, it's kind of twofold. And you'll remember, you're not as old as what we are, but you're still kind of old. Many years ago, I'll use pro bodybuilders because it's easier for people to relate to. You had Flex Magazine, Muscular Development, Muscle and Fitness, a couple other ones. You would read these articles or flip through the magazines, and at the time, you would think, holy crap, Jay Cutler's a fucking multi-millionaire. Because the magazine was telling the story. The magazine was telling the narrative. The magazine controlled who is Jay, who is Ronnie, who is Branch. And then when you would meet these people, you'd find out, not saying that this was Jay, but you're going to find out, man, they're living in a $300 apartment. They're broke as fuck. They're living off their girlfriend. This isn't who they are. because the magazine created who they were. Same with Sports Illustrated and NFL players and all this other stuff as well. Those people on your walls when we were growing up, they're not really who we thought they were, right? Now, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But what it also does, though, is that now the magazines, the news networks, they can't cherry pick their favorites anymore. Because if they do, right, they can't tell the narrative. They can try to tell the narrative, but then you got to tell those players, don't post on social media.
Right.
Don't say anything to anybody. You got to go through our HR department and PR department before you even give a press interview. And that still happens. It still does happen in the NFL. But in the strength sports, it doesn't happen, which I can see as a good thing, right? Because now the athlete yourself, you write your own narrative.
Right.
You can be you, and that authenticity is what does the best. Be you. The problem is when the other people try to be Stan, or try to be Matt, or try to be Dave, or try to be Louie, or try to be somebody they're not. They can't maintain that cover, right? Now, if they had a publisher doing it for them, the publisher can. You get what I'm saying? So
that's a good point.
There's two sides here. That there's always going to be good and bad, yin and yang,
That's a very important message that you just said. First, in retrospect, those magazines, I used to read them. I used to highlight them and bend the pages and read them, and I had every single month and collected, Muscle and Fitness and all those things. Then come to find out those guys didn't write any of those articles.
Nope.
And I wrote articles for those magazines in recent years. And the articles are recycled and different pictures are put on the same damn articles, which you come to find after you read them every single month. But you hit on something real important there in conclusion about, I lost my track of thought. What did you finish up on there?
Well, it was the magazines, telling your own story, authenticity.
Oh, yeah, authenticity. That's my biggest concern was when I started first getting into social media. I had, obviously, Mark Bell was who I was training with in 2009, had kind of just started doing a lot of YouTube content and has done extraordinarily well by being very consistent with that. And I never really had a personality per se. Like I wasn't C.T. Fletcher, right? I see C.T. and I watch his stuff and I'm like, oh man, that guy's got this particular personality. And Mark Bell's kind of got that WWE thing that he grew up with, and he's really good at it, right? And I was sitting around for a while, I was thinking, well, how am I going to present myself, when I go out and start doing social media? And I don't have it. I don't have a performance. I don't have that kind of, I don't know character. For me, all I had was information. Things that, from a lot of years of competing. And so that's what I launched with. I was just me, and I just talked about, every single rant that I did on YouTube and every interview that I did. I just talk about what I think I know, what I think I learned, what I think the research suggests, and I keep learning and try and give that to people. And I've given away a ton of free information. I did an entire 2+ hour podcast on YouTube. It was a seminar up in Iceland with Hafthor Bjornsson, and I went over with an overhead projector and over step by step went over the entire vertical diet. It's got almost 7 million views now. And my wife, after I got home from that, she's like, "Who's going to buy your ebook? You just put the whole thing up there in video." And sure enough, it actually sales exploded on the ebook. Because if anybody's like me, when I watch a podcast, I can't remember very much of it. And then I got to go back and watch it again with a piece of paper and start writing things down. Plus, there's a whole lot of, filling. But it's a reference point, like a text that you can go to. And I also didn't try and claim that I invented any of that stuff. Every single chapter in my book, I reference the resources that I utilize, the people who I think are the most knowledgeable in that particular field. And links to their videos, their articles, and the published peer-reviewed research if you want to take a deeper dive. And then I make my specific recommendations so that people can very quickly see this is exactly what I recommend and why. And I've got a host of different people in there. And like I said about Louis Simmons earlier, again, I don't claim that I agree with everything those people say. Nor do I claim that those people agree with everything I say. And they're in my book. Dozens of them, names and faces that people are familiar with in the industry. And I just utilize that as kind of a resource.
I've even suggested that, just like Matt has an employee manual that we turned into a career book, that everyone should have some sort of text, like, so that you aren't repeating yourself to every single client, and that they have a resource that you can update, which is what I do with my ebook. It's a living document that we've got version 3.0, and I've made some adjustments and clarifications and nuances to things that I've recommended in the past as science has emerged, or as I've gotten feedback from thousands of clients over the years. I said, well, you might want to consider this. I didn't invent all that. Somebody brought it to my attention, and I shared it with my audience. But I recommend that even if you're a personal trainer, at a gym, that you have some sort of document. It could be an ebook. They're pretty easy to put together. It's online, so that your client has some sort of resource that they aren't kind of in the shadows, having to look around and find answers to questions for everybody else. Here's everything I want you to do. Here's sleep, hydration, nutrition, digestion, blood testing, health markers, etc. Even a grocery shopping list and menus, and little tips and tricks for compliance. Everybody has their own favorite palette of things that they recommend, what worked for them, and what they've understood from their education. They should put one together. It becomes almost like a business plan. It really does. When I've had to write a business plan, it tells you a whole lot when you have to present it to a bank, or like when I was just getting into doing the cooler when Shark Tank invited me on. Shark Tank wanted an extraordinary amount of information. They wanted bank statements and tax returns and financial information. They also wanted a business plan, a very detailed business plan, a very complete business plan. I hadn't done one yet on the cooler. It was a relatively new business. It tells you a lot about yourself, about your goals, about whether you lack procrastination, that kind of thing. But that would, to me, be, if you were to compile everything, that's how I created the Vertical Diet 3.0 ebook, is I just had notepads. Every time I came across information I thought was important, or I had a history of clients that I had worked with, and I just kept all of that together in my notes. And then I finally, one day, took all of the notes for all of the topics that I wanted a client to know right out of the gate, and I put them in one document. And so every time they contacted me to train them, I said, here, I need you to read this, and here's a questionnaire so I can get some specifics about you and make some recommendations that are unique to you, potentially. And that's how it evolved. So the bottom line is, I would recommend that people do that exercise. I would for any business. I would ask for a business plan. What's your client's business plan? In general terms, understanding that everybody has their own specific goals, weight loss, weight gain, medical conditions, etc. So it's kind of a proposal that Matt and I make to our coaches as well.
Yeah, because one thing we always talk about is, on our wall it says, what gets measured gets done.
Yes.
But if it's important to keep the client focused, because you might have a client who's like, I wish Jason could get on here because he'd give you more stories, but somebody might say, I want to get really strong. And then like 3 weeks later, it's like, I think I need to get leaner. It's like, well, it's like, and then it's like, when are we going to put some weight on the bar? It's like, dude,
they're all over the place.
It's like, but by keeping notes, you can say, well, last week you told me this. What do you want to do? It's like a restaurant. You want steak, I'll bring you a steak. You want chicken, I'll get you chicken. You just got to tell me what you want. But you can't tell me I was walking out with the steak to get me chicken.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks it's a short-term thing. They don't understand the commitments that it takes to, whether it's lose weight or gain weight. It's not P90X. It does not work.
5 years is still going to go by in 5 years no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's easy. With that, I always tell people is think back to what your goals were 5 years ago. Are you there?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Right? Or another way is, Christmas just passed by, but say it's September. Just, can you remember last Christmas? And everybody's like, oh, hell yeah. You realize that was 10 months ago.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
10 months ago. You know how much weight you can lose in 10 months if you're just dropping 1.5 pounds a week.
Yeah, New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
I always say you can be great at anything, but you can't be great at everything. So you really do need to get people to define what it is they want.
The other thing I notice is people overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time and underestimate what they can do. Like, to your point though, but you'll get somebody who's like, I want to put 100 pounds on my deadlift. Great. In 6 weeks, it's like,
Yeah,
but you can put 200 pounds on in 2 years if you want to.
Sure.
If you really want to make the long-term commitment.
I mean,
Matt's a master at that. He always tries to find out, and he'll just ask them straight up, "Do you have any fitness goals?"
Yeah.
And that really opens, and they're like, "Yeah, I want." And once they tell you what you want, you're golden, because then you just provide them a path to achieve that.
Yeah. Well, whoever's talking in one of those scenarios is losing. You know,
yeah.
I've watched guys try to.
Matt's got 1 million of these in the book, by the way. These little quips that he says.
I've watched trainers try to solicit, and they'll go door to door, and they're like, we have excellent equipment. And I'm like, I'll just say like, hey, where are you from? And you let them get going, because you're probably going to screw. It's like talking to girls. Like you're probably going to screw it up.
Yeah,
you're better off with them talking. The odds of you screwing up are pretty high.
Yeah. Are we getting into a different podcast here?
Yeah, right.
Matt's new ebook, Pickup Advice.
So yeah, we're actually coming up to, I think,
our 3-hour mark.
Our 3-hour mark. Yeah, you don't want to miss a plane. So, any last words? Where can people reach you?
Yeah, at Stan Efferding's the Instagram. StanEfferding.com is my website. That's where I have links to our meal prep company. We serve vertical diet meals nationwide. Monster Mash. Nobody's probably heard of that by now. Stan Efferding on YouTube will get you those videos that we talked about today, and there's a host of those Rhinos rants on there. But everything's at Stan Efferding.
Beautiful.
If somebody was interested in the vertical diet, would you recommend they buy the ebook from your site, or they buy the book on Amazon?
Selfishly speaking, I'd have to recommend the ebook, again, because it's more comprehensive. There was things in there I couldn't put in the book, things about, more in depth about blood testing, about performance enhancing drugs, about strength and hypertrophy programs. It is more comprehensive, plus it's a living document, and I'll be updating it with version 4.0 soon. By living document, I mean that once you buy a copy of it, you get access to any subsequent updates that I make for it, and so that's my recommendation. But some folks really like, I buy books and I highlight them and have them as a resource as well, but they're both great resources.
You can go to beatpersonaltraining.com. We do offer some products for trainers, or it can be anybody, physical therapist, chiropractor, somebody who's looking to make a career in the fitness industry. We have some stuff that can help them out. And then our books are on Stan's site, so stanefferding.com. And my Instagram is Beat Trainer, but you're going to see a bunch of pictures of me and my kids. I'm not the show.
The Barbarians.
Yeah.
So some twin, are they 6 now?
Yeah, twin daughters.
Twin 6-year-old daughters. They are hilarious.
God's funny.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. For everybody in the chat, thank you very much for joining us. This was episode 90 with Stan Efferding. The Rhino himself, right? That's it.
I'm trying to drop that as I get older.
It's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you very much for joining us as well. It's been an absolute blast. As always, guys, like, subscribe, do all the things, and we will see you in the next one.
Anything between 4-week-long mesocycle and an 8-week-long mesocycle, and that includes 1 week baked into each at the end for deloading, seems to be generally a good idea for muscle growth.
Nutrition is probably more important for the hypertrophy if I'm looking at the strength athlete, because if they go through that phase that they're supposed to go through that they don't go through, but then when they do go through, they don't go through it effectively,